This Dharani, remember Dharani and mantra have a little bit of difference. Dharani, it's a longer form mantra. Mantra is a shorter form. What is a mantra? What is a Dharani? If we try to analyze it from our daily living, a Dharani is a summary, is a briefing, is a summary of the sutra. The sutra is in long form. It's all the philosophy, all the teaching is contained in the sutra, and then usually in the sutra itself, close to the end of a sutra, sutra could be in many, many words. Could be long, could be short, but usually quite long. Usually there's a conclusion at the sutra. And even the conclusion is long. The conclusion, it's sometimes in gutta form or in a poetic form. So it repeats what's in the teaching of the mantra as a conclusion. But the Dharani is even in a shorter form, regurgitating the meaning of the sutra. So by chanting the Dharani, it reminds us of the content of the sutra. Is an aid in memorization, in remembering the teaching. And also, it is also magic words of mentality linkage of the Bodhisattva to the chanter. So in other words, it's like the magic words, or some people like to call it the magic spell, the magic words. These are the magic words. If you say these magic words, your mind is in resonance with the Bodhisattva's mind. It's in harmony with the Bodhisattva's mind. Or the communication is linked up. I always use the simile of a radio station and the radio in us. So we have this mind radio, and the Bodhisattva is a grand universal radio station. You need to link up with the radio station, then you need the frequency. Usually we say 103.5, 1470. Now, 103.5 is just the frequency. Of course, it has a long name to it. I don't know what the name is. 1470 or 1320, Overseas Chinese Voice Company Limited or whatever. But the 1470 or the 1320 is the very short form with which you link up with the radio station. So you need that frequency to link up. And the mantra or the Dharani is that frequency. If the mantra, if it's a short, Om Mani Padme Hum, the frequency is short. So you have to repeat it a lot of times, repetition. The power comes from repetition. Why do we have to repeat it? Because when we first start out, it's like a warming up. Om Mani Padme Hum. Your mind is not fine-tuned to it. It's just like when you put your fingers onto the knob of your radio, you don't bang, you get the 103.5 immediately. You really have to turn from the left to right or the right to left, and then you fine-tune it and all that. So you need time to tune it in. It's not just bang, you put it in. It's not like a keyboard. Not like a keyboard, you key it in, you tune in. You slowly have to tune in. And when you tune in, you turn your fingers, your knob and all that, and adjust it and all that. That means you need repetition in it. The repetition is also to warm yourself up, just like in any exercise. You warm yourself up, and that tuning also to put your mind in tranquility, in peace, peacefulness, and also to put your mind in awareness. When you tune in that frequency, if you don't have awareness, or if your mom is talking to you, if somebody is talking to you and you're at the same time tuning it in, you may not get it right. Because your mind is scattered all over the place. Or you could be thinking of many things else and many other things. And also your radio may be not working. And you don't know, you have a scattered mind, you don't know. But when you concentrate, then you know, oh, is it my radio is not working? Do I tune it in right? Do I have the right battery? Is the battery all used up or exhausted? You have all these, so you need to chant for quite a while to tune yourself in. This Maha Karunika Chitta Dharani comes from the Maha Karunika Chitta Dharani Sutra. The sutra there says that Avalokitesvara, when practicing Prajnaparamita, he was at his first bhumi. There's 10 levels, the first level. First level is already quite similar to Sotapanna, which is elimination of the ego. Already a major part of the ego, of the mental afflictions that are associated with the ego is already eliminated. That's the first level, the first bhumi, B-H-U-M-I, bhumi, or the level of ground. We call it, bhumi is a Sanskrit word. It means the ground, or the first ground, and that is quite similar to Sotapanna, which is elimination of most of the mental afflictions associated with the self, with the ego. But there's still some innate, delicate, minute mental afflictions that haven't been eliminated. And a Sotapanna, of course, when he reached that level, when he passed away, everybody has to pass away. When he passed away, he won't reincarnate into beings of the three vicious realms. Infernal realm, animal realm, and ghost realm. He won't go in there. He will be just in the three meritorious realms, which is the human's realm, the Asura's realm, and the heaven realm. And usually this Sotapanna would come back 7 times, approximately, to practice again until he reached arahatship, which is complete elimination of the ego and go into nirvana. No more reincarnation, no more suffering. There's 4 levels. So when Avalokitesvara realized his first bhumi, he listens to the Buddha's chanting of this sutra, and he learned it immediately, and he elevated himself to the 8th level. And thereby he make a wish. Any sentient beings who chant this mantra, requesting for help in difficulties, in hardships, he would immediately come for help. Otherwise, he won't attain enlightenment. So there's a lot of merits in chanting this long Dharani. It's been chanted for hundreds of years, and it's been very effective, unless you haven't fine-tuned yourself in. And of course, there are conditions when you fine-tune yourself in. There's still conditions for effects to come up in chanting it. For example, if you are terribly sick, or if you have something that you wish for and it can't come true, and you would like to invoke help from Avalokitesvara, you chant this mantra. The sutra says 21 times. You chant 21 times, and if you chant it with devotion, your wish will come true. Or you wish one of your relative members or family members is sick, and you would like to request Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva for help so that he or she could be healed, you chant this mantra. You're in difficulty. Or even if I'm looking for a job and I always can't get a job, I'm unemployed. I have been unemployed for a number of years. I would like to get this job. And you request Avalokitesvara's help and it would come true. 21 times, each time, 21 times with devotion. It worked for for millions of people who chant this mantra, this Dharani. So we already know how to memorize it. And we have pamphlets that help you to learn this mantra. So if you don't have that aid, we have a card in which we print down. Maybe Lee, you can show anybody who's interested in learning this mantra. That's upstairs in the main gracious hall. There is a card in which is all printed and you can learn it. There's even a free copy of how to learn this mantra in English, both in English and Chinese. It's free, it's complimentary, upstairs. I don't know if they already have given them all out. Get one copy with the CD, with the printing. Learn this mantra. There's a bilingual explanation in it. Now, but there are 3 conditions for your wish to come true, requesting help from Avalokitesvara. The first condition is faith, no suspicion. If you chant this mantra and say, I don't know if it will come true, but somebody told me it's 21 times. Anyway, I'll chant it. If it doesn't come true, so let be it. If it comes true, it will be good. Then you have suspicion in it, you have no faith in it, you have no confidence in it. That means, I don't know, it's 103.5. It could be 102.1. I don't know, I forget about it. So you have to have the faith, you have to have the confidence, no suspicion. The second one is you must have performed good deeds. In other words, you must be morally sound. In other words, you're always chanting this mantra, requesting help from the Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, but you are killing, you are lying, you are involved with sexual misconduct, you are doing crimes, you are doing all sorts of evil things, evil actions, evil speech, then it won't come true. In other words, your conduct has to be good. The foundation, your mind must be in harmony with good conduct. It's similar to your mind radio. Are the chips broken in your radio, your mind radio? Are the wires connected? Is it working? Your radio is not working. Even how can you tune in? You've been killing, you've been lying, you've been doing all these bad deeds. All your morality foundation collapsed already. So you must be a good, virtuous person in order to have this mantra come true. So faith, morality, and the third is devotion. You chant 21 times, you chant 1 time per a day and 3 times and then maybe 4 times another day. There's no consistency. So you have consistency and faith, you have devotion, you have no suspicion, you are morally sound in your conduct, in your speech. Then 100% it will come true. I tried it many, many times. It comes true for me. And I taught this mantra to a lot of students, even students who wanted to go to Ivy League universities. They don't know it will come true. They write a letter and they chant, and it comes true for them. Many, many examples like that. All kinds of wishes will come true. Unless it's wish to hurt people, then you're not morally sound. That won't come true. What's the meaning of this mantra? This mantra, this Dharani, is written in Sanskrit. our pronunciation is in Sanskrit. It's not in the Sanskrit word. The calligraphy is not in Sanskrit, but the sound is in Sanskrit. It's in the classical Indian language. So, I haven't really given you any meaning. Mind you, this has been passed down from 2,000 years ago, and language change. Even the Sanskrit language has changed a little bit. The translation has changed. But then people who are expert in the Sanskrit language try to find a meaning of this mantra, and they were able to decipher 90% of it. Some of the words they don't even know the meaning. So they just carry on to the sound. But most of it has meaning. So let's go through it now. Namo Ratna Tarayaya. What does that mean? Namo is paying the highest homage to. It also means seeking protection under. Ratna. Ratna is jewels, germs. Trayaya is the three germs. In other words, homage to the triple germ. What's the triple germ? The three jewels. The Buddha, the Sangha, and the Dharma. Paying homage to the Buddha, the enlightened one. In other words, you're paying homage to enlightenment. You must be in pursuit of enlightenment to be enlightened. You must want to be a saint, but you must be practicing the method of being a saint to be a saint, which is usual. You want to be the best worker, you must work towards it. So Buddha means enlightenment. Dharma is the methods. What are the methods involved? The sutras, the Vinayas. All these are the procedures, the philosophy, the methods involved in getting to the enlightenment. Sangha. What is Sangha? The third jewel. Sangha are those who are helping you. Your teachers, your gurus, like I am one of the members of the Sangha. So, homage to the triple germ. Namo Ratna Dharaya. So every day you're chanting it, you're paying homage to these three jewels. Namo Arya Avalokitesvaraya. That's the second line. There's homage to the holy Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, the great being, the great compassionate one. Avalokitesvara, that means watching down to see where the help is needed, or hearing where the help is needed. So the Bodhisattva always symbolized by, most cases symbolized by 1,000 hands. In each hand there's an eye in there. So in order to render assistance, to render mercy, to render compassion, you need to see and to hear where the help is needed. You need to analyze should the help be necessary. So homage to the whole Avalokitesvara is watching down on the world, hearing the world in order to find who needs help. Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva is those who practice enlightenment. The level is they haven't reached full enlightenment as yet. Some of them, they want to come back to the world to help sentient beings. They don't want to be in nirvana. In other words, imagine that if you're enlightened, you are in, just imagine that. I give just an example. If you're enlightened, you go to a world, you want to go, you go to heaven, or you want to go, when you're enlightened, you are in a world where there's no suffering. But you departed from this world. And the Bodhisattva wants to come back to the world. He's already enlightenment, or in the process of being enlightened, but he wants to come back to help all these other folks to be enlightened. So homage to the holy Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, the great being, the great compassionate one. The third line, Bodhisattvaya, Mahasattvaya, Mahakarunikaya. Maha means great being, Sattva means being. Bodhisattva, I already explained it. Mahakarunika. What is Maha? Maha means great. Karunika, that means compassion. You render compassion out. Karunika. Sometimes when you write a letter to a monk or to laymen who believe in Buddhism, you can say, Om Mahakaranika. At the end, you just say yours sincerely, or you're faithfully, or sincerely yours. You just write Om Mahakaranika, or Om Mahakaranika to all. That's more appropriate when you write to a monk. When you write to a monk, you won't say lovely yours. You won't say that. So you would just say, at the end, you say Om Mahakaranika to all sentient beings. Third line. The third line is Om. What is Om? Om is, you don't need to translate it. It's the mother of all sound. If you really want to translate it, it says, listen, here comes the mother of all sound, the origin of everything. Om. Om is a very magical word. Om. Zava Rabaya Sudhanadansya. To all chanting of the good givers. Sava means all, everything. Sava. Zava means everything, all, encompassing all. And Sudhanadansya, dana means giving out. So it means to all chanting of the good givers. Always giving out merits, giving out good to people. Always be compassionate. Namas kritiva imang arya valokitesvara ramdava. Having done homage, the holy Avalokitesvara, the Lord of happiness. Namo Narakinti. Namo Narakinti. Narakinti, it's a blue neck Avalokitesvara. What is blue neck? It's giving out blue light. It's symbolic. The mantra is symbolical. In other words, when it mentions, for example, lion or elephants, it does not mean just lion and elephant, like the animal. It's symbolical. Language is symbolical. So when you try to remember something, when you heard about a lion, it symbolizes authority. It symbolizes power. So there is another sutra called Blue Neck Avalokitesvara. So Narakinti, that means the blue neck, giving out the blue light, blue in blue light. Hirihi Mahavadazami Zava Atadu Zubam Ajayam. That means Hirihi. Hirihi is, what is Hiri? Hirihi is the seed syllable of Amitabha and Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. That's the magic word. There's a Sanskrit word written onto it. Hirihi is the seed word. The seed word is the most important name. Hiri. If you don't mention anything in there, Hirihi, that means Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. That's the seed syllable. Hirihi. Mahabhatasami Sava Atadu Zubam Ajayam. To the master possessing greatness, good from all points of view, the invincible one. Ajayam, the invincible one. Sava Sata Nama Vasata Nama Vaga. Homage to all beings, and then there's two nama in there. Zava Vasata means intoning, that means always chanting, whispering. Vasa and Namo. Namo, we know what Namo means. Vasa, we still don't know the meaning of it. It could be a very ancient Sanskrit that we already lost the meaning. So we just say whispering or intoning, Vasa and Namo. Namo we know. Namo is paying the high respect, taking protection under. So always whispering means always in your mind, always intoning, whispering, and remembering Vasa and Namo. Makadatu, that means free from bondage. Makadatu, that means free from bondage. Makadatu, free from bondage. What kind of bondage we have? We are bonded by our own body. We are bonded by the 5 skeleton we have. We are bonded by Lao Tzu, there was an ancient Chinese philosopher, Lao Tzu, the Westerners call Lao Tzu, very ancient philosophers like Confucius, and he said, our problem is we have a body. When we don't have a body, we don't have problem. Why do we have this body? This is a reincarnated body. This body contains matter, the five skandhas, matter, perception, conception, volition, and consciousness. In other words, this body contains the material side and the spiritual side. The material side is the heart, the spleen, the skin, everything, the hardware. Now, Lee just say the hardware. Hey, here, this is hardware. Everything is hardware. Other than the hardware that contain in us, we also have the software. What is that software? The spiritual side of it. Perception, volition, conception, volition, and consciousness. So what are the problems? What are the problems with our five skandhas? Can you think of any problems? Well, this is our bondage. We always say this is the ego prisoned. This is the ego that bonds us. But what are the problems? Let's not get into too philosophical an explanation of it. Just say, what's the problem of this body? You've got to clean it every day. Comb your hair, use the right shampoo, clothe it. You have to nourish it. You have to eat your breakfast. You have to eat your lunch, your dinner, and you make sure that you have the right nutrition. Isn't that troublesome? You have to eat inside of it. You eat your food in. There's got to be in and out. When you want it to come out, you have to go to the washroom. How many days you go to the washroom every day? Imagine you don't have to eat, you don't have to go to the washroom. How peaceful it would be. Every day, this body requires a lot of caring. And finally, it betrays you. It dies out on you. I don't want to die. No. You have to. No choice. Have you got a choice of permanent living? You don't want to die? This body, and there's more problems if you continue to think about it. And some people are self-pitying, self-love. A self-love is better than loving other bodies. And they fall in love with other bodies too. And in this relationship of falling in love with other bodies, it creates a lot of nuisance, a lot of mental afflictions like jealousy, hatred, revenge, killing, raping. Well, how does this body create all these problems? And sometimes we call this body in a hotel, an apartment. When the lease is up, you got to go. Can't renew it anymore. Now that's just the hardware. What's the problem of the others? 4 skandhas. The perception, the conception, the volitions, and the consciousness. When we see everything, we tend to see everything with color lenses. This is good, this is bad, this is handsome, this is ugly, this guy is poor, this guy is rich, he's fat, he's ugly. Well, we discriminate, we pass our judgment onto everything. Our perception is not what things really are, not what they actually are. And when we have this wrong perception, then we have the wrong conceptualization. When we have the wrong conceptualization, we carry out the wrong deeds. That's why we have mental afflictions of jealousy, greediness, anxiety, hatred, depressions. That's why we carry out actions into killing, lying, you name them. So isn't that enough for this body? Let's carry on, otherwise we can't finish. So Isn't it be free from bondage? Maybe at the end of the letter, when you write to a monk or you write to a Buddhist, you say, let's be Makadattu. Let's be free from bondage. Or you just say Makadattu. Makadattu, free from bondage. Let's working towards free from bondage. We want to be free from bondage. Tadhyata, the next one is, what is Tadhyata? Now, from Namo, the first line, to Makadattu, free from bondage, that's the homage, that's the prelude to the Dharani, the introduction. Paying homage to and reminding you with the last word, you've got to be free from your own bondage. You have to climb out from the cocoon of your own ego. We're like a caterpillar throwing threads and nobody binds you. God didn't bind you. If God tried to bind you up, He's not God. If God is really God, He will save you, pull you out from a cocoon. He cannot. Why? Because you throw your own thread to bind yourself up, you've got to cut it yourself. The shepherd protector or the herder. Do you call herder? The guy who herd the shepherd. The herder who tied the bell to the sheep. He has to untie the knob himself because he's the only guy who knows. You're the guy who tied it onto the sheep. You should be the only guy who untied it. Nobody else can. You throw your own thread to bind yourself up in the cocoon. You have to eat it out, break it out from yourself, for yourself. So, from Namo to Makadattu. Next is Tadhyata, and after Tadhyata, that is the central content of the Dharani. Tadhyata, what is Tadhyata? Tadhyata means that is to say, or it runs like this. After paying homage, then it runs like this. That means here's the content of the magic words, the main words that you must remember. Om again. Listen very carefully, because that's the origin of wisdom, origin of prajna. Avaloki, Lukati, Karanti, E Hirihi. Avaloki, let me turn to the page. Avaloki, it's the seer to the world, observer of the world. Karanti means worship, worshipping, or paying homage to. E Hirihi, there's no explanation for it, it's the seed syllables. Maha Bodhisattva, the great Bodhisattva. Zava, that means all, everything. It embraces everything, all Dharma, all. Mala, that means watch out for the garbage, watch out for the mental defilements that bind you. Mala. There's another word, mala. There's another word, the same writing, M-A-L-A. One is mala. Mala is with the emphasis on the first syllable. But the other, mala is emphasis on accentuation on the second syllable. Mala is your rosary, your garland of bouquet that you honor people. So don't pronounce it wrong. If you pronounce it as mala instead of mala should not be pronounced as mala. And mala should not be pronounced as mala. Otherwise, it's dirt, I'm giving you dirt. No. Mala is the bouquet of flowers. If you know the meaning of the Dharani, when you chant it, you feel that you know it. But don't take the words for the meaning. In other words, one word could contain a lot of meaning to it. For example, Makadattu. Makadattu is free from bondage. So it just reminds you, bondage, why do I have to free myself from bondage? But the meaning of it contains all the Dharma. It contains the Vinaya, sutras, it contains all the sastras. So these are just the summarized word, the memory aid for you to remember the meaning of the sutra. When you say, I've got to be free from bondage. What kind of bondage? How to be free from it? It leads you to think deeper and deeper. So don't just take the superficial meaning. The reason why Dharani is not translated into its full meaning is, first of all, it's a memory aid. It's a summary. Now, if you translate everything, it's translate the meaning, it means there's another sutra. Right from a Dharani is another sutra. So we really have to pull out the most important words. When you know the most important words, then you know. For example, Zava. What does that mean? Zava means? Zava means all-embracing, all. Look at the macros, the macroscope of it, not just the micro level. When you look at things at the micro level, your view tends to be restricted. It always reminds you to extend your view in a macro scale. Look at it from a wider angle. So always Sava. It also reminds you of Maha. What is Maha? Maha means the greatest, the highest level, the supreme. Because there's so many philosophies, you have to reach the Maha, the higher level. Karanika, what is Karanika? Compassion. What's the meaning of compassion? Compassion is to give out. Prashta Paramita, people who practice Prashta Paramita, when they give out compassion, is unconditional. In other words, when you attach to the ego, when giving out the compassion, is not the true compassion. I want to give this guy is sick. This guy is in front of a liquor store and he's drunk and he doesn't have any food. He's begging for $10. My teacher says that if I help some poor people, then I have good in return. In return, I have good merit. So in order to get good merit, maybe I'll help this guy. So you have attachment when you're helping. Compassion is unconditional giving. We attempted to explain the meaning of the Dharani, because the Dharani was written in Sanskrit. There were Chinese transliteration of the sound, but there's meaning with the Sanskrit words. So last time we stopped at Tadhyata. Tadhyata means that is to say. So in the previous lines cover the homage to Avalokitesvara. From Tadhyata onwards is the content of the mantra, the content of the Dharani. So Tadhyata means that is to say. It's similar to the Heart Sutra. Most sutras contain this word Tadhyata, that is to say, or what is being said follows, that is Tadhyata. Om avaloki lokate karante. Om is the mother of all sound, the origins of all deeds. It's a very high level seed syllable. Om. Om, Ah, Hom, Vam, Tvam, Hiri. All those are seed syllables. Very important syllables. Om. And some people translate it as listen carefully. You can also listen carefully the following words. Om. Avaloki lokate. Avaloki, that means the watcher, the seer. the person, the bodhisattva who sees the world, who watches the world, who watches where the compassion is needed, where the mercifulness is needed, where the help should be rendered. Lokate. Lokate means the world transcending one. Or some people like to use the word Lord, the Lord who transcends the world, who practices to such a stage that transcends the world transcending one. Karate means worship. Om Avaloki Lokate Karante E Hirahi. E Hirahi is like an exclamation. A is like an exclamation addressing something. It's also a seed syllable, Hirahi. The H with the dot at the bottom is a thrown sound. English doesn't have a lot of thrown sound, but Sanskrit had a lot of thrown sounds, like Hirahi is in the throat. A Namah with an H that is a throat sound. So A Hirahi, it's an exclamation. Is also a seed syllable. You should know what seed means, as we have explained in Vijnana Matrata, in the consciousness school of the Buddhist teaching. The alaya consciousness contains all the seeds. Our alaya consciousness contains all the seeds. Seed does not mean the tree's seed. Seed is not. It's metaphorical. The word seed is metaphorical. It does not mean a seed of a plant, but it's metaphorically it means the seed of a plant. It also means energy. The alaya consciousness contains a lot of these seeds. Your alaya consciousness, my alaya consciousness, contain beginningless seeds. Seeds that been accumulated many lives before. All the energy, all the impressions, dispositions, all the activities that you have performed, all the thoughts, every word you utter, all accumulated from previous lives up to now. So everything you have to be accountable for everything. Every word that you utter, every thought, it accumulates, it gets registered. If we use a metaphorical meaning, it's like a keyboard that has been keyed into the computer. All the bad things that you thought about, it won't go away. It becomes a seed in your alaya consciousness. So that's why we practice to purify our mind. Do not nurture any bad thought. Every thought has energy. If you nurture a selfish thought, a self-centered thought, it becomes an energy in your alaya consciousness. If you always nurture compassionate thought, a helpful thought, a wholesome thought, then it becomes a wholesome seed. So you have to be very careful, all of us to be very careful in what we think, what we perform, and what we speak. But in ordinary daily life, all sentient beings are doing just the opposite thing. They don't care. Whatever they think about, they just voice it out. Cursing, yelling, flattery, lying, everything they want to utter out, they just bloat it out. Yelling, they react with emotions. Every thought, a sensuous thought, a greedy thought, inscrutable thought, unscrupulous thought, unconscionable thought. All the thought. You think a thought does not count? Every thought counts. Every thought gets registered. So if you follow the Buddhist teaching, you know that every thought is significant. Some people cannot sleep without creating imagination in their mind. They were sleeping, they suffer from insomnia, they want to create a story, an imagination in their mind. Now, if that created imagination is wholesome, that's good. If every night he's creating unwholesome thought in order to fall asleep, some people are like that, it becomes tenaciously attached to the self-centered mind, the mano consciousness, and it gets stored into the alaya consciousness. It becomes very dangerous. It becomes very detrimental to you. So we all have to be very careful in our thought. You may think it doesn't count, nobody knows about it. It gets registered in you. Bad results will come out. How come in our daily life we encounter so many bad things, so many unsatisfactoriness, unhappy, emotional? How come we encounter all this, what you, quote unquote, presume to be inequitable to you? It's unfair to you. Nothing is unfair to you. You create your own thought. You create your own destiny. You've got to be very careful, and you've got to be accountable for every thought, every word, every action you perform. They all carry karma. They all carry the karmic energy. Every manifestation, every impression, every disposition, all counts. Hirahi. Next, Maha Bodhisattva. Hirahi. Maha Bodhisattva. Maha, that means great, supreme. Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva, it's the sentient being who is striving, who is on his way to enlightenment, who is practicing on his way to enlightenment, who has vowed to enlighten himself and enlighten all sentient beings, a Bodhisattva. Of course, there's different levels of Bodhisattva practices. We are in the preliminary level. We vow to practice towards the path of enlightenment. We are also Bodhisattva, but we are at a very preliminary level, the initial Bodhisattva, the beginning Bodhisattva. Zava, Zava, Mala, Mala. Zava, that means all, inclusive, everything. Zava. Zava, Zava, Mala, Mala. Mala. Mala means mental defilements or mental afflictions. Mala, which I always reiterate, is not the same as mala. Mala is the rosary beads, your bouquet of flowers. There's mala, but there's mala, that is defilements, it's mental defilement. In a Dharani, in a mantra, every word means a lot. So that's the reason why we don't translate the meaning of the mantra, because it means so much. Even this word defilement, it means we have to strive towards eliminating our mental defilements, our mental afflictions. Do we have mental afflictions? Do we have mental defilements? Maybe many people don't even know about it. What are mental defilements? How many mental defilements that we have? Where do mental defilements belong to? Where do they come out? Where do the mental defilements arise? What's their source? Don't you know about these mental defilements? Where do they come from? Do they come from people who infuriate you? Do they come from people who blame you? Do they come from outer environments, objects that induce you to be angry, induce you to be jealous, induce you to be greedy? Do they come from outside? Well, all these external objects are only conditions and causes that help you to induce your own mental defilement. They come from you. It comes from within. It doesn't come from people. It doesn't come from you. Like, the object is neutral. The object itself is neutral. There's a diamond ring in the shop. Nobody noticed. I'm going to snatch at it and shoplift it and put it in my pocket. The diamond ring is neutral. The diamond ring is not criminal. It doesn't judge. Who judges it? Who creates the greediness? It's you. The mental defilements does not come from the diamond ring. It comes from you. It comes from your mental defilements. Now, where do these mental defilements come from? From the mind. It comes from the mind. So it comes from the mind. The Buddha said, we have to understand our minds. Minds with a plural form. Usually we use the mind with a singular form. One mind. Actually, there are 8 minds in you. We call it the mind kings or the mind controller. The mind kings, 8 mind kings in all of us. What are these 8 mind kings? The 8 mind kings in us. We have the 5 senses. Each one of them is a local king. What are these senses that we have? The eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue, the body. These are the 5 senses physically that we have with God. So what does our eye interact with? Form, sight, material, eyes. See, our eyes see. So there is a senses in here. The mind is connected to these senses. So the eye, the ear, the nose, the tongue to taste. So eye to form, ear to sound, nose to smell, tongue to taste, body to touch. Do you have all these senses? If you do not have, then you're handicapped in some. If you cannot see, you're handicapped in sight. You cannot smell, you're handicapped in your nose. Assuming that we are not handicapped, you have all these 5, we call it mind kings, or consciousness. If we don't want to call it mind, consciousness, the eye consciousness, the ear consciousness, the nose consciousness, the tongue consciousness, the body consciousness. So we've got 5. And what is the 6th consciousness called? The thinking consciousness. So all these 5 are the local kings. All these 5 localities have to have another king that interact with them. Or sometimes we use the example of 5 salesmen. You got all these 5 salesmen at the door. Everybody has these 5 salesmen right at the door, at the front end, interacting with all customers, interacting with all objects. Sound, smell, taste, touch. All these 5 salesmen are interacting. These consciousnesses interacting. And then there is a thinking consciousness. In the Sanskrit language is called mano consciousness. That is the controller for all these, interacting with these. Now all these 5 senses, they don't judge and discriminate. They just perceive. They don't conceptualize. They don't contextualize. They don't speak. They don't have linguistic. So when they see a reverend being an what is a reverend? A reverend is a person or thing that you can pinpoint a linguistic expression for it. This is the floor, and that is a lantern. The lantern is a reference. You refer to that one. This referent, and you create a linguistic expression to express that as a lantern. The eye does not have that linguistic expression. The eye only perceives it. Someone has to give a linguistic expression for it. And that linguistic expression is not that simple. It digs into the past file. My mom told me this is red. My mom told me this is a lantern. It also digs into the file of the present instantly, almost instantly. So the judgment, the discerning abilities, and all that is by the thinking consciousness, which is the sixth consciousness, that is the mano consciousness. And this mano consciousness is extremely sensitive. Now, where does that ego devotion reside in your mind? There is another consciousness, which is a subtle and deeper consciousness than the thinking consciousness, then the mano consciousness. And that consciousness, the ego consciousness, in the Sanskrit language, is called the manas consciousness. M-A-N-A-S. If you like to get into the internet to research more into it, a lot of information in it, that's called the manas. That is the ego consciousness. Because all this thinking consciousness, there's got to be a region of the mind where not just the discrimination, the thinking, the discerning, there's also the I, quote and unquote I, you, I, me, they. You differentiate yourself from all the others. This is me, a self-centered me. This is my ego devotion. Everybody has that. The prior six consciousnesses, I'm still talking within the boundary of the word defilement, but I need to explain to you in order for you to understand that particular word. Sometimes one word would take 90 days to explain. Or it happened. There was a monk in I don't know which, maybe in the Tang dynasty, he used 90 days to explain a Dharma. So, but we use 90 minutes would do. Yeah, not 90 days. Yeah. So defilements, we're talking about, okay, the prior six consciousnesses, and that is this region of the mind where you have this self-centeredness, deep-rooted in there, which is very subtle, which you may not know. Most people don't know. They know that they have an I, they have an identity, they have an ego, but what is it residing in? How does it interact with all the others? You see, the I consciousness, nose, ear, taste, tongue, and even the thinking consciousness will have interruptions. When I close my eyes, I don't have eye consciousness. I have interruptions. I shut off my ears. I don't have listening consciousness. I don't eat anything. I don't have tasting consciousness. So all these sense consciousness always have interruptions, intermissions, deliberately or undeliberately, consciously or unconsciously. And how about the thinking consciousness? Does it have interruption? What happens if you're in a coma? You passed out. What happens if we are sleeping? When you are sleeping, your thinking consciousness is interrupted. You may have a dream, sometimes you may not have. So the sixth consciousness, the sixth and all these other five consciousness at the door, even that controller. Imagine this, 5 salesmen in a company interact with the customers. At the back, there's an office manager that controls these 5 salesmen, and here's, of course, the thinking consciousness. And there's also the ego consciousness, right? Now, all this have interruptions. Why? In this example, they could quit the job. The manager would quit tomorrow. All these salesmen, 5 salesmen, they could quit. But this ego consciousness, it does not have interruptions. It carries on life after life. Your ego, my ego, it accumulates life after life with no interruptions. It resides in the deepest subliminal level of the brain, of the mind. You see, when you talk to scientists, they will always tell you the most inscrutable part of the human body is the brain. And they only could study about 10% of what the brain functions. There's a lot of part in the brain that they don't even know, and it's still being explored by the scientists as to what it means. the left brain, the right brain. So this ego, the manas consciousness, is the seventh consciousness, which is the ego consciousness. Without interruption. It does not interrupt. It does not have interruptions. So it's, in a certain perspective, is unchanging. It always carry on. And then you say, okay, so I have all these consciousnesses, so how come I can remember, where does all this information get stored? Information about myself, about my previous life. How about my experiences? Where do my experiences get stored? The salesmen don't care. They just interrupt the customers. The office manager only keeps track of what the salesman is doing and makes sure that everything is running well in the office. So where do those archive stores? There's got to be archives in you, right? You don't have an archive? So where do they get all stored? There's another consciousness, the store consciousness, which is called the alaya consciousness. And that alaya consciousness is extremely powerful. But that alaya consciousness is neutral. It stores everything. Wholesome things, unwholesome things, vicious things, compassionate things. It just received. It received and gets stored in it, and it becomes what? Energy. It becomes energy, wholesome energy, unwholesome energy. Everything gets stored in there. Every word, every thought, all stores in there. How many megabytes are there? Uncountable. Billions of megabytes. You cannot use it up. You've been passing from one life after another with so many of these. These are the seeds inside the alaya consciousness. When conditions come, these seeds would arise into manifest activities. So you have the seed of greediness in you. You get into a shop, you like that diamond ring, it induces you to steal that diamond ring. It interacts with the outside world. There's a lot more to say. Other than this 8 mind kings, there are also ministers, 51 ministers, to help these mind kings to manifest activities, to store activities. Let me repeat that sentence. Taryata om avaloki lokate karante eharahi maha bodhisattva sava sava mala mala mahima hridayam kuru kuru kamam duru duru vijyate maha vijyate. Now we stop at sava sava mala mala mahima hridayam. I stop at that point and I start to explain the meaning of Zava Zava and Mala Mala. The whole mantra of compassion, every word contains a lot of meaning in it, and you must know how to reflect on the meaning of every word. Like Mala Mala, metaphorically, it means garbage, garbage. It means mental afflictions and mental afflictions. So Sawa Sawa means all mental afflictions arises from where? Mahima Hridayam. Mahima is great and profound. From Hridaya, Hridayam that means the heart. Metaphorically, the heart means the mind. This is my gratitude from the bottom of my heart. Your heart physically cannot show the gratitude. It's metaphorically, it's from the heart, but it's from the mind. But since the ancient days, we have been using the heart as the mind, as the very important part of the body. All emotions originate, we think, from the heart, but it's from the mind. So this sentence here is very important, that you should understand how our mind functions. To understand Buddhism, you must know how to analyze the mind. Analyze all the mental afflictions that originate from the mind. How do they originate? How do we see things? How do we form opinions? How do we discriminate? How do we discern and judge? And how do we attach to obstinacy? And how emotions arise? All these we have to study. So it's very important that we should recap and reiterate on what we have learned in every session, so that we can reinforce in our mind as to how we think. If you study Buddhism from the perspective of just blessings, you're losing the most important point. Buddhism is the study of the mind, and how do you create that mind of urging for purity, and how do you, when your mind goes astray into mental afflictions, how do you put it back and put it in the right place? And that is what the Diamond Sutra is all about. If you studied the Diamond Sutra before, in the second chapter, when Subhuti asked the questions, how did Subhuti ask the question? Subhuti asked, meritorious men and women, when they have already produced the mind for enlightenment and pursuing Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi, how do they, this is a question addressed to the Tathagata, to the Buddha, how do they maintain their mind in the right path, always in the right path, and in case it goes astray into mental afflictions, how do they control their mind? That's a very important question. And the whole Diamond Sutra concentrates on how do you control your mind? How do you maintain your mind in righteousness? So that's the reason why we have to spend more time into it, into this mala mala mahi mahiridayam. So every time when you chant the mantra of compassion, zava zava mala mala mahi mahiridayam, then you know that's what it means. Just to recap, because it's a very complicated subject, I need to recap it so that every time is like a review. What is this mind of ours? This mind of ours has two aspects to it. One is the surface mind, or the superficial mind. The other is the deep mind. Or one is the conscious mind, the other is the subconscious mind. The conscious mind always imagines it's on top, and the subconscious is it's subliminal, it's in the lower level, it's a profound lower level. So the conscious mind being the surface mind that you can feel it, the subconscious mind is very difficult to feel. You're not conscious of it, you're not aware of it unless you probe into it, unless you understand it, unless you, like meditators, you dig deep into it, then you know about it. Otherwise, most people, they don't know about it. They just let their conscious mind interact with objects in their daily lives and use the emotions to respond to it. That's how ordinary people do. Emotions being crying, smiling, laughing, depressed, feared, anxiety, you name them. They use emotions. They run the whole gamut of emotions to respond to objects, things they see, things they hear, things they interact with. That's what ordinary people do. But being meditators, you know deeper, you don't react on emotions. You react with intelligence, with wisdom. This is how we should dig into it. So we have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. This is also good for people who like to introduce Buddhism to other people. You know, it's the study of the mind. How do you analyze your mind? You should voice it out. You should know how to do it. So the conscious mind contains 6 minds. If we categorize it, the 6 mind. The first mind, the conscious mind, the first one, the 6 minds, the first mind, or mind is consciousness, or the first consciousness. Or you can say the conscious mind contains 6 consciousnesses. The Sanskrit for consciousness is vijnana. Or you can say the conscious mind contains 6 vijnanas. V-I-J-N-A-N-A, vijnanas. The first one, the first consciousness is visual consciousness. The second one is auditory consciousness, visual, auditory consciousness. The third one is regarding the nose, olfactory consciousness, your nose smells. The fourth one is gustatory consciousness regarding the taste. The fifth one is tactile consciousness regarding touching. Now, these are the 5 forerunning consciousnesses, the 5 senses. The 5 senses are what this consciousness adhere to. You got those 5 senses, unless you lose some of these senses. If you lose your eyes, then you don't have visual consciousness. If you lose your ears, you don't have the visual consciousness. You lose your taste, you don't have the gustatory consciousness. So you have those 5 consciousnesses. And this 5 consciousnesses has to interact with a controller, which is the mano consciousness, or the thinking consciousness. Why? Because the visual consciousness only identifies the objects, absorb it like a camera lenses, and then it gets into the inside of the camera and discern it and reflect it on the image. So you need a deeper, a more significant consciousness to control all these 5 senses. We always say this is the controlling manager, being the controller of the corporation. We call it the mano consciousness in Sanskrit, mano. And it's also in the common English, it's the thinking consciousness. But why do we call it mano instead of thinking? Because it's so profound that thinking is it's just one aspect of it. Because when we thought of thinking, we always think of discernment of the present. But actually, this mano consciousness reflects on the past, think about the present, and forecast the future. It contains many, many aspects of thinking. So we can't just say that it's thinking. We call it mano to keep its profundity. Okay, so that's the first service mind. That is the conscious mind that we know you know your senses. But how about the deeper mind, the subconscious mind? The subconscious mind, the first one is the manas consciousness. It's not mano, it's manas, which is the ego consciousness. You don't know that everything you see, everything you interact, you attach your ego to it. You're not conscious of it. Automatically, everything you see, you want to consider from a self-centered perspective of your own. This is mine, this is you. I'm different from you. And this is my possession, that's your possession. This is my car, that is your car. You always build up that self-centered, egoistic thinking in you, and there is a special consciousness assigned to that profundity of egoness. We call it the manas consciousness. And then there's another deep, very deep subconscious mind, which is called the alaya consciousness, A-L-A-Y-A, alaya consciousness, which we call the store consciousness. Why do we have that? Because with all those consciousness, then you start to question, when I die, where does this consciousness go? And how come how come I know all these things? How come my mind contains so much? It contains the past, the present. How come it contains so much experiences, so many dispositions of it, so many impressions of it? Because why? Because there's a store consciousness that store all these archives, like a disk drive of a computer. And this store consciousness is also the object of the ego consciousness, because the ego consciousness don't attach to just one life ego. The ego is not just one life. You have egoistic attitude of this one life. No. Every life before, every reincarnations before, you have this ego. It's not just in one reincarnation, I don't have an ego. I'm all altruistic. I'm not solipsistic. I'm not selfish. Every life we are selfish. We are egoistic. We don't know about it. So this mana consciousness views the store consciousness as the mother, as the object, attaches to it, like a husband and wife. Like the wife, subservient to the husband. It carries it all the way through without knowing it. So when all the other 6 consciousness of the conscious mind died away, your eye dies, your ear, your nose, your body is gone, pronounced death, clinically death. You don't have all this consciousness anymore. It shrinks into the alive consciousness and stored in there with the ego consciousness shrink to it. You don't imagine consciousness as a physical object. That consciousness is invisible. It's like energy. When all these things is gone, where are you? It shrinks into that energy of alive consciousness, which you can't see it, you can smell it, you can't taste it anymore. It shrinks into an energy, an invisible, profound energy, and that's the nomina for reincarnation. When the body is clinically death, the last to leave is that alaya consciousness. It leaves the body and goes into a Bardo stage, an intermediate stage between the next life. That's called a Bardo stage. Well, if you want to study more about the Bardo stage, read that book, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. It contains a lot of information on Bardo stage. Where you in the Bardo stage, what are you doing? Well, you know, what, in the 49 days of the Bardo stage, you know, all these has deep explanation onto it. Imagine the wisdom of the Buddha. All these things, how come the Buddha know all these things? He knows all these things and he passed on to us. Because after knowing all these things, he got into enlightenment. He surpassed all these things and get into a realm where there's none of these things anymore. All right then. Do you have that background information in mind? If you have that kind of background information in mind, then we can carry on. So, let's do a practical talk using the concepts that we learn in this mind concept. When we cognize something, when we interact with something, what happened to the mind? That's the background information on the denominations, on the meaning of the mind. But what happened, we have to apply Buddhism to daily lives. We still did a course in university, how to apply Buddhism to daily lives. That's what we're doing now. How do we apply this study of the mind to our daily life? What do we do when we cognize something? Cognize is cognition when we interact with something. And a person, a thing, anything. When your senses are in interaction with all these things, what happened when we cognize something? 3 subjective transformations happen simultaneously. We don't know about it, but it just happened like that. We may know some, but there are some we don't know about. That's why we get mad. That's why we commit crime. That's why we committed something that we don't know why we're doing it. It's just on the spur of the moment that we did it because we don't know. we'll react on impulse. We'll react with ignorance. So don't react with ignorance. We get more into it. When we cognize something, there is an automatic and instantaneous pouring out, exuding of past experiences, present disposition and impressions from our alaya consciousness. That means our archives is working all the time simultaneously, not by sequence. That's why when we look at something, many things happened when we analyze it. The alaya consciousness that retain impressions of all our past experiences first acts to transform the object of cognitions. We have utterly no control on what we pour out. In other words, we have our karma, we have our past experiences, past impressions, past dispositions, and at the same time when we see things, when we hear things, when we taste things, all our past experiences, it pours out to interact with it. You're cutting on your sirloin steak, put it in your mouth. Oh, it tastes good. It tastes sour. It tastes bitter. Because why? Because you have the bitterness experiences before. You have the sour experiences before. And the archives immediately interact with it. Because if you have never tasted bitterness, you don't know what bitterness is all about. You don't know what sweetness is. All your past experiences exude out to pour on that sirloin steak you're cutting. A lot of experiences. How much does it cost? Gee, it doesn't worth it. It cost me $36. I do it at home for $5. All these things come out at the same time. It looks depleting, looks terrible. I used to have a cherry on the side of it, or some parsley on the top to make it look nice. Terrible. You're passing judgment at the same time. We cannot help but taking that which is first subjectively transformed as the cognized object. And this subjective transformation is a reflection of what we've got in the past, which is what is the past? It's none other than yourself. Somebody else's past? Your own past. That transformation is a reflection of the past experiences, which is none other than yourself. We've been jealousy, we have jealousy, hatred, fear, depression, boo, all these things work at the same time. That's from the archives. We bring the archives first, the alaya consciousness, the store consciousness. What is the function of the store consciousness? It is a storer, a storekeeper. It has a capacity to store, and it houses the ego consciousness. Its husband and wife go together. And at the same time, the function of the wife, the manas consciousness, the ego consciousness. The function of the ego consciousness is to continually turn his eyes towards the alaya consciousness as a partner, as someone he loves. He can't get rid of it. He loves his past as a self and to attach to it. Don't you like yourself? Even if you hate yourself, it's still an attachment of the ego. This is easy to see how selfishness cannot but bring great influence to bear on the objects that we see, that we hear, that we listen, that we consider. So after the alaya consciousness subjectively transformed the object, then on top of this, we imbued greater influence to objects according to the self-centeredness emanating from the manas consciousness, emanating from the ego consciousness. This is the second subjective transformation. You attach an ego to it. So how complicated our mind is. You see how complicated you are? I am. So the process of subjective alteration, this two, the alaya consciousness and the manas consciousness, does not stop here. Does not stop. There's simultaneously, there's another subjective transformation occurring at the same time in addition to this. What is that? That is all the other superficial consciousness, the eye, the ear, the nose, the thinking, and all that, including the sixth consciousness, which is the controlling consciousness, which is the thinking consciousness. It's instantaneously and directly associated with a wide range of varying psychological functions, with wholesome things, unwholesome things, and neutral things. Why? Because this guy, this controlling consciousness is working with 51 mental factors at the same time when you cognize an object, when you interact with an object. And it's very important that you understand the 51 mental factors. The 51 mental factors in which contain all the mental afflictions, unwholesome mental afflictions. It also contains the wholesome mental factors. So if you understand these 51 mental factors, then every time when you think, you know that you should purify your mind. So let's get into the 51 mental factors now. The 51 factors have 5 broad categories to it. Yeah, you can take notes down. The first one is always present. Whenever you think, whenever you hear, you smell, whenever your mind works, these factors always are interacting with these factors. Think about this way. Your 6 consciousnesses, in the Chinese language, they designate it as the mind kings. The mind kings lead ministers to associate and help the mind kings to carry out functions. Some of these ministers are good ministers, being the wholesome ministers. Some of these ministers are unwholesome ministers. And some of these ministers are sitting on the fence. Like in the parliament, there's the neutral ministers. In the next election, they will get the votes because they don't want to infuriate any parties. So there are wholesome ministers, unwholesome ministers, and neutral ministers. Now, omnipotent factors, whenever each one of these consciousness work, omnipotence means they all work. In every time they work. Some of the ministers don't work when the mind king works, you know. But this one, this omnipotent factor, which is the first category, there are other 4 categories too. Within this first categories of omnipotent factors, there are 5 ministers. So in this, what do you call that? Portfolio? Is that called portfolio? I don't know. It contains 5 offices. Attention, contact, sensation, perception, and volition. In other words, every time when my consciousness work, all these ministers work. They all work. They won't say, I don't work at this. If they don't work, you cannot interact you cannot interact. For example, attention. If I see something, if I see you, if I don't pay attention to you, I don't know it's you. If my mind is thinking about something, if I see Lee in here, I don't know that's Lee. Because my attention is not there. When I'm eating something, if I'm so depressed, if I'm so sad, or if I'm so happy, I don't know how it tastes. Because I don't have attention to the tasting now, because I'm involved in other things. So in order for that consciousness to work, you've got to have attention. The minister of attention will work at the same time. Attention. I'm talking to you now. If I don't pay attention to what I'm trying to say, I cannot say it well. So attention. But simultaneously with the attention, or maybe even a little prior to the attention, there's got to be contact. I see that door, my eyes have to be in contact with that object. If I close my eyes and in contact, how can I see that door? So contact is very important. So my ears are open, and you are singing, you're chanting, so that sound gets into contact with my ears. So if you are in utter sadness or in utter unhappiness, you don't know how your food tastes. You don't know what you're doing. You're so lost in it because you don't have the attention now. So attention, contact. And then sensation. Sensation is, it's pleasurable, it's unpleasurable, it's neutral. So you create a sensation to it at the same time. This minister of attention works. And then it's perception. Perception is you totally receive it and you ponder about it. That's another minister that's worked towards the perception. You listen to a sound, you listen to some chanting, you listen to someone singing, for example. So you have contact with the sound, you pay attention to the sound, you perceive it sensationally, it's pleasurable, it's unpleasurable, it's neutral, maybe it's pleasurable. Attention, contact, sensation, perception, you hear something, you conceptualize it, it's good, it's pleasurable. Volition, what is volition? Because of contact, attention, sensation, and perceptions, you perform something out, you form a thought. You formulate a thought, this is really nice. That final thought you formulate, volitions. Or you formulate into an action. I want to rewind that and hear it again. Volitional action, volitional thought. So there's omnipotent factors, always present with every consciousness. No exception, otherwise it doesn't work. Next is, the next category or portfolio is objective contingent factors or specific mental factors. 5, also 5 ministers working in there. What are these? The previous 5, they work whether it is wholesome or unwholesome or neutral. They work in doing bad things and doing good things and unwholesome things. They always work. It's just they are workers. In this objective contingent specific factors, they don't generally work. They're only specific to certain work. In other words, they may be specific to wholesome things, or they may be specific to unwholesome things. Now, what are these 5? The first one is desire. The second one is resolved. The third one is memory. The fourth one is concentration. The fifth one is intelligence. What is desire? Desire is your intention. You desire to be good. You desire to continue listening. You desire to turn it off. Resolve is you understand it. You desire, for example, get rid of that listening sound as an example. You desire to follow the Buddha's teaching. So in that mental ministers, the minister of desire, it works. I want to get enlightenment. I want to live like the Buddhist way of living. I want to be pure. So you desire to do something. In other words, you have an objective in mind. You have a destination to tread your path to walk. So it's very important that you create desire in you. When you create desire in you, it's still a thinking process. A good desire. On the other hand, you can have a bad desire. I desire to hurt that guy. I want to hurt that guy because he cheated me. He borrowed $50,000 from me. He signed a contract. Now it expires. He has not returned his money. Now I'm broke, and I asked for the return of money. He didn't return it. He doesn't really care. He said, you can sue me if you want. I'm going to hurt him. This is desire, unwholesome desire, specific desire. Resolved, what does resolve mean? You understand the whole case. You understand the contract. You understand what happens to you. In good things, you want to to get enlightenment, you want to learn the Buddhist teaching, you have the desire to do so. You understand the Buddhist teaching, resolve, that means understanding of what you desire, or understanding of your intention. I'm looking at the clock right now. The gong should have been hit. It hasn't, but I can carry on. The third minister is memory. That desire in you, that understanding in you, you always remember it. That guy owed me $50,000. He's not returning it. It's in my mind. I'm always thinking about it. I'm going to get even with it. I'm going to get it back, one way or another. So you always have that mindfulness that you want to do something. On the good side, my desire is to get my degree at UBC. And I understand how I'm going to do it. And I remember that that's my desire in my memory. That's what I want to do. I'm mindful of it. It's a good desire. Good desire, good resolve, good memory. What is the fourth minister who works? Concentration. All this desire, resolve, and memory, you always concentrate in doing it. You have a desire, and one day you forget about the desire, you still have the memory. You let it go, you don't really care. 1 year drift by, you say, I'll drift into the second year. Oh no, I'm not going to go in the second year. I'm going to travel to Asia for another 2 years first, and then come back to do something later. You never can get your degree. You're like a rolling stone that gathers no moss. You don't have concentration. No concentration. But on the good side, you may have concentration. I desire to learn the Buddhist teaching. I understand the Buddhist teaching. I remember the teaching, and I'm going to do meditation. I'm going to target onto it, concentrate onto it. Which one you prefer? The fifth ministers, listening to the gong, which we're going to finish the fifth ministers, the minister of intelligence. Intelligence, that means you have the wisdom. You have the wisdom to gear, to guide your desire, your resolve, your mindfulness, and concentration. You have the wisdom to do that. Now this wisdom could be bad wisdom, but we still have to use that intelligence, the wisdom. Why bad wisdom? I want to hurt that guy because he owed me $50,000. I understand every time he travels home, he's all alone by himself. I'm going to remember which road he take, and I'm going to hurt him. And this is what I'm going to do. He must have intelligence to plan all this. A criminal is not a foolish guy. He planned on it. And I'm sure this gentleman knows more than I do than criminals, because he caught so many criminals in his life, I guess. So criminals, they also have intelligence. So I finished 2 portfolio of ministers. I don't know if I used that right word, portfolio. One is omnipotence factors. The other is objective contingent specific factors. So in other words, when all your 6 consciousnesses are working, all these ministers are helping your consciousness to achieve what you want. How complicated our mind is. Very complicated. That's what the Buddha told us. You've got to know it. You've got to put it under control. You've got to maintain it. And finally, you've got to purify it. Once this is all purified, you're on your way to enlightenment. I don't think anyone would justify in saying the Buddhist teaching contains extremely high wisdom unless he studied the mind. Because what I'm telling you is just one portion of what the Buddhist teaching is all about. It's very, very detailed. In other words, when you run a country, other than the monarchy at top, for example, the ministers. How do those ministers work? Ministers have clerical staff. Under the clerical staff, there's a lot of management to it. You think it's easy to run a country? It's not easy. You think it's easy to run your own mind? It's not easy. What happens if you understand thoroughly how to run a country? You become the most enlightened monarch. So you want to be an enlightened monarch of your own country body, of your country, of your what you quote unquote yourself, or you want to be a Louis XVI? Is it the 16th of the French Revolution, who got guillotined by the French people? There are, of course, enlightened monarchs. There are also foolish, atrocious monarchs. Which one you want to be? Or which one do you learn to be? The Buddha has given you a path of how to be an enlightened monarch. What we left off last time, we're talking about in the mantra. Let's get back to the mantra of compassion. We have talked up to Tadyatta Om Avalokitesvara Avaloki Karante Eherehe Mahabodhisattva Sava Sava Mala 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 Mala. When we come to Mala Mala, Mala Mala, metaphorically, it means garbage, and actually give us the connotation that mental afflictions. Now, when we talk about mental afflictions last time, we also talk about how do we understand our own mind. And we also cover as to the study of the Buddhist teaching is primarily the study of one's mind. You have to understand your mind. You have to understand how every thought arises and how every thought is carried volitionally into action. So we have to understand the importance of the mind. How mental afflictions come up, how jealousy come up, hatred, depression, greediness, craving, ill wills. How do those mental afflictions come up? How do we overcome them? Remember in the Diamond Sutra, the first question asked by Subhuti, you still remember this question asked by Subhuti to the Buddha, and that becomes the second chapter, or the second chapter of the whole Diamond Sutra. Is the question is like this. Gentlemen of merit and ladies of merit, when they already have big vows to attain Anuttara Samya Sambuddhi, in other words, when they already have made up their mind that they will tread the path of the sages to go on the purification path or the path of enlightenment, how do they keep their mind, their Bodhi mind, always maintain intact going onto that path? And when they sidetrack, how do they turn it back to the authentic, to the true path? In other words, when it becomes bad, when our mind goes astray, then how do we get it back onto that path of purification? Remember, that is the question. So we really have to understand our mind. And when we talk about mind, we go into detail. I don't know, maybe I spent about 4 or 5 times to study this, because this is really significant. especially for people who have never heard the Buddha's teaching. They thought the Buddha's teaching is about a God, about worshipping Buddha, and Buddha will give you blessings, about acquisitions from Buddha. You want to acquire wealth, fame, reputation, longevity, good health. You got everything from Buddha. That's not the objective of studying the Buddha's teaching. The objective of studying Buddha's teaching is to understand how your mind works, and how, if you understand yourself, then you understand others. So it is primarily creating not just internal understanding, it's a mutual understanding. So when we talk about consciousness, doing a very fast recap, which helps in most cases, and the mind, if we can break it down into consciousnesses, contain 8 consciousnesses. 6 is the superficial, the surface mind, the surface consciousnesses, and the other 2 is the subconscious minds. The first is visual consciousness. Your eyes corresponds to objects, to all matters. Auditory consciousness, the hearing consciousness. The ears corresponds to sound. Olfactory consciousness, which is the smelling consciousness. And gustatory consciousness, which is the tasting consciousness. And the tactile consciousness, which is the touching consciousness. And these 5 are nothing but yourself. You're not studying the consciousness of other people. All these are nothing but yourself. Problem comes from misconception of your senses in your interaction with the outside world. That's why we need to study them. Other than these 5 consciousnesses, there's also the manager that manages the senses. That is the mano consciousness, the thinking consciousness, the consciousness of discernment, the consciousness of analysis, the consciousness of going back to the archives for the past experiences and projections for the futures. There's the 6 conscious minds, the surface minds. And then we ask also, are these enough? I mean, those are the minds. Well, they are just the surface minds. Because questions comes as to, how can I remember all my past experiences? How do my memories get stored? And how come I can discern this is mine, this is yours? And how come people exercise their judgment with self-centeredness? How come some people act with altruistic attitude, and some people act with solipsistic attitude, egoistic attitude? Because there are 2 other consciousnesses that dominate the mind. The one is the manas consciousness, which is the mind of self-attachment. You always recognize your own ego as yourself. And then there's another one, which is the significant consciousness, which is the alaya consciousness, and that is the storage consciousness, which store all the information of the past, of the present. So that's the whole set of the mind structure. Scientists, psychologists, and philosophers, they break it down into the left mind and the right mind. And from scientific journals, scientists and psychologists and philosophers, they claim that they only study not even 10% of how the mind functions. In other words, there's still a lot of inscrutable, uncovered areas of the studies in the mind. Now this is what the Buddha was talking about 2,600 years ago. And of course, many philosophers later explore into what the Buddha was talking about. That's why we have Immanuel Kant, who talk about subliminal consciousness, which is a further exploration of the Buddhist teaching in the alaya consciousness and the manas consciousness. Given that as a recap, let's carry on. When we have these 6 minds, which I already have dealt in detail, which you should remember, how come we should remember them? By understanding it, you know how to get rid of all the mental afflictions coming up. You know how to control yourself. You know how to purify yourself. You know how karma gets created. You know how to control your own destiny. You are the creator of your own destiny, not God. You create your own future by understanding yourself. accommodating yourself into the mutual understanding among people. All right, now, when this 8 consciousnesses function, they don't function alone. And in the sutras, they identify them as mind kings. In other words, there are a lot of kings. The alaya consciousness being the major kings, and all the other 7 consciousnesses are the minor kings. They are the kings. And kings have to be helped by ministers. And without ministers, how can the king get to work? How can the king get to govern the country? There's got to be ministers. And every minister is a position that control all the others, like a whole parliamentary structure, a constitutional structure. So one of these, so you have those local 8 kings. You also have 51 ministers helping all these consciousnesses to work. And they arise at the same time. Some of them arise at the same time, some of them arise subsequently, and we have gone through there are 51 of these. And we try to categorize them into 5 categories. And the first category we already have gone through, which we call the omnipotent factors, mental factors. Omni means all, always present. These mental factors, these mental functions are always present. Does not matter which consciousness is being exercised. Visual consciousness, auditory, all these consciousness, the omnipotent mental functions always work incessantly. What are these omnipotent mental functions? The first one is attention. The second one is contact. The third one is sensation. The fourth one is perception. The fifth one is volition. Imagine if you look at something, if you don't pay attention, you don't know what you're looking at. I'm looking at you, but I'm not paying attention to you. It appears I'm looking at you, but I don't know it's you. You're eating food, and you don't pay attention to the taste of the food. The tasting consciousness is not working. You don't know how the food tastes, even though if you're eating. So you have to, in order to create a consciousness of that particular function, you really have to pay attention. So attention, contact, of course you got to have eye contact with form, sound, ear contact with sound, and taste contact with food, and body contact with objects. So you got to have contact. You got to have a sensation. Is it pleasurable sensation, unpleasurable sensation, neutral sensation, indifferent sensation? Perception. You really have to perceive it. Perceive it and get it back to the manager to discern it. The manager pull up the file to say, this is, according to this past experiences, this is red, this is green, this is white. Volition, it carries out into a thought. After all these things, it carries out into a thought in you. And look at this. I appreciate it. I don't appreciate it. I hate it. I love it. All these things become a volitional thought in your mind. It's working instantaneously. You may not even notice it. The second category, I call it objective contingent mental functions or specific mental functions. What are these? There are 5 in there. Desire, resolve, memory, concentration, and intelligence. These are the 5. Why do they call specific factors? Because sometimes they come up with the consciousness. These ministers sometimes work with the consciousness, and sometimes they don't work with the consciousness. And even if they work, some of them work with certain nature. Every thought we have, it is related to 3 natures: wholesome nature, unwholesome nature, or neutral nature. That embraces almost everything. A wholesome thought comes up, is wholesome, good thought, a thought of compassion, a thought of helpfulness, good thought, wholesome thought. There's also unwholesome thought. a thought of injury, a thought of negligence, a thought of foolishness, a thought of jealousy, a thought of hatred, unwholesome. These are the two extremes. In between is neutral. Not unwholesome, not wholesome. So, specific mental functions, desire, resolve, memory, concentration, and intelligence. Why are they specific? Because sometimes they may be wholesome and may be unwholesome. What is an example of unwholesome, objective, contingent mental functions? Okay, say for example, I wanted to be a good person. I wanted to be a person of conscience. I wanted to be a person who was compassionate, who was helpful, who was good. So you have a desire to do something. That is desire. An objective. You want a desire to do something wholesome. On the other hand, you could have a desire to do something unwholesome. Desire can be wholesome and unwholesome. Resolve, that means you understand what you desire. You have an objective to pass the examination. You study the course. You have resolved. You resolve to study it, understand it. Memory, you remember everything in that course. Concentration, you won't be swayed into not taking the objective. You don't swerve aside. You want to take that desire and you want to go straight ahead. No divergence. Intelligence, that means you have to have the intelligence to go ahead with desire, resolve, memory, and concentration. So, in your mind, it works, but you don't know about it. These specific mental functions, desire, resolve, memory, concentration, and intelligence, it works instantaneously. But have you geared it to the right path? Criminals also have this kind of contingent factors. Their desire is to do something criminal. They resolve, they understand what they're doing. They want, for example, they want to rob a bank. They resolve to rob millions of dollars. They understand the route that the security patrons take, how the car gets into a certain road. They study the map, they study everything. They study everything in detail. That's resolve. Memory, they put everything into a planning. Everybody remembers his positions, how to steal, how to rob. And the concentration, nobody can swerve their thought. They want to do this so badly. They want money. Intelligence, they got to have the intelligence doing it. But the whole thing is gearing towards something bad and wholesome. You understand what I mean? So it always works in our mind. Now that is, I already have stopped at that point. Now what are the third? So we have omnipotent factors, contingent factors. What are the third? The third is mental afflictions. These ministers are bad ministers. We always have these mental afflictions working with our consciousnesses. Now what are these mental afflictions? We need to know these mental afflictions so that we understand the enemies. We understand the bad ministers, then we can control the bad ministers. We understand the good ministers, then we can let the good ministers to exercise whatever they want. Freely exercise their will because they're good ministers. All right, what is these mental afflictions? These mental afflictions are craving, greediness without limit for things one likes or appreciates. Do you have that? Don't tell me you don't have that. You're craving. Some people want to be a millionaire. Some people want to, a big house, fame, reputation. They're aiming at only egoistic acquisition, craving. You have craving and you don't even know about it. That's the first. The second one is ill will. Ill will is a term that embraces all the negative feelings. It embraces, it composes of anger and hatred. It is the opposite of craving. It is a mental function of anger and hatred directed towards the things that one does not appreciate. You don't appreciate something, you create ill will, malice. maliciousness. That is the second one, ill will. The third is ignorance. That it is a self-delusion. Ignorance, it is a self-delusion. It contains a vast variety of mental afflictions, which is view of a composite self, extreme views, perverse views, attachment to one's views, and attachment to certain disciplines, to certain habits. Some thinking, if you constantly repeat it, it becomes habituated, it becomes a habit, it becomes a personality, it becomes a karma. So ignorance is a self-delusion of views that you maintain. Some people cannot change their views on something. This is a predisposition that you learned in this life, in your family when you were very young. You build up this kind of ignorance in yourself. So craving, ill will, and ignorance, these are the mental afflictions, and there are more. There's 26 of them. 5 omnipotent mental fact functions, 5 specific mental functions. These could be good, could be wholesome or unwholesome or neutral. But what I'm mentioning now, the 26 mental afflictions, these ministers, they are bad ministers. They are in you and me all the time. So we already have mentioned craving or greediness. We already have mentioned ill will. We already have mentioned ignorance. What is the fourth? The fourth, self-conceit, such as arrogance. We always have a superiority complex, and some people may have an inferiority complex. Some people are extrovert, some people are introvert, some people suffer from depressions, lots of mental cases. Even arrogance and self-conceit, if you study psychology, it can be broken down into further details. Self-conceit, in a certain case, self-respect. You demand respect. You demand, in order to show that you demand respect, you're being arrogant. You have a big ego, a self-centeredness that you want to protect. If that protection is broken, you're going to be volitionally doing something to protect it, even at the risk of injury, or even at the risk of self-injury, which we call suicidal, committing suicide, to maintain that self-respect and arrogance. Oh, these things happen all the time. Flip to the Globe and Mail or the Vancouver Sun. How many? Well, if we mention all these mental afflictions, and if you take the trouble of copying it down, put it by the side of the newspaper, and you try to match the news with all these mental afflictions, sometimes you may find corresponding characteristics. Oh, the happening of this pertains to arrogance. The happening of this pertains to ignorance. The happenings of the occurrence of this pertains to ill will. This pertains to malice. Oh, this pertains to conscience. This pertains to compassion. Everything is unfolded in the newspaper sometimes, if you think about it. All right, but we mentioned self-conceit, which is the fourth. How about the fifth? Doubt, where one has misgivings about the validity of such principle as the law of cause and effect. They're very doubtful on the cause and effect, and very doubtful on what the Buddhist teaching about non-self, and very doubtful about yourself, doubt about other than yourself. What do you mean by doubtful about yourself? You're losing confidence. You don't believe in yourself. You want to do something, but you don't have the confidence. No, the doubt is on yourself internally. Not just doubtful of yourself, you're doubtful of others. Doubtful of the Buddhist teaching, doubtful of people's views. You always create doubt. You have doubts in your family, doubt about your husband, the unfaithfulness of your husband, or many things, doubtful about many things, doubts. Doubtful about the teachers. Well, that teacher is teaching meditation. Is it good? Is it right? No, he taught us a mantra. Well, I want to find out what is right. I want to Google it and find out if the pronunciation is right. And then to match different mantra pronunciations. Oh, this is not too far off. Okay, we accept that. Well, sometimes it's not just doubt, it's verification, a third-party verification, which is good. But if it's excessive, it becomes a mental affliction. Doubt can create a lot of troubles. If you're doubtful about your wife's loyalty, then you could perform many foolish things. Broken marriages. The cause of some broken marriages is because of doubts on the partner's concern. Anyway, that's doubt. This number 5. And number 6, incorrect views. This is, as I said, view of the composite self, extreme views and perverse views, all different views that you have. You cannot change them. Obstinacy. No matter what other people admonish you, you don't take it. This is what you maintain. If it's a good view, it's good, but if it's an obstinate, one-sided, perverted view, then it's going to hurt yourself. No faith, and then indolence, sluggishness, self-indulgence, depression, forgetfulness, distraction, agitation, incorrect cognition. So you have, just repeat it again for those who take notes, no faith, indolence. Indolence, that means you're always being lazy. You tend to be lazy in your thinking, in your action, in your speech. You may not know about it. We have a tendency to be lazy, to be indolent. Self-indulgence, you want to indulge in something that you shouldn't be. Okay, so the 5 plus no faith, indolence, self-indulgence, depression. This is a general term. People depressed, they lock themselves in a room and they get depressed for the whole day. Forgetfulness, distraction, cannot concentrate. Some people, they cannot concentrate. And that happens to many kids because so many parents come to the temple and ask for help. Oh, my kid cannot concentrate, always have distraction. He cannot sit down for 5 minutes. Some people, some kids cannot sit down for 1 minute. They have to move around. No concentration, distraction, agitation. They easily can get agitated. Incorrect cognition. You look at a flower and it's not a flower, it's a fruit, it's an apple. Incorrect cognition. And then there's also unscrupulousness. Unscrupulousness, that means you have no shame on what you're doing. No reflection on your own thoughts. You know it's wrong, but you don't take shame in it. You don't care. You don't care about, you don't have inner shame. You know it's wrong, but you're not shameful about it. It's good to be shameful sometimes, to be remorseful. And then another affliction is shamelessness. Shamelessness is unscrupulousness is regarding yourself. In other words, you don't have that shame inside of you. You don't care about that. Shamelessness, on the other hand, is another mental affliction, which is you don't care about what people think of you. Because if you perform bad deeds, other people, the society will not accept you. That's not the society's norm. So that, for example, if you're raping, the society cannot accept that norm. It's not right to be hurting others. But you yourself, you don't have that shame, your shamelessness. You don't care about what the society think. There's on others. So you see the difference? Unscrupulousness and shamelessness. And next, we go into a little fast now. Anger. At the same time, when you have consciousness created, you have anger in yourself. You may not realize it. Anger. Anger is really associated with hatred. You hate a society, you hate certain particular group of people. That's the reason why they have genocide internationally. Discrimination, hatred, anger. And then you also have, next is resentment. Next is worry. We all have worry. Some people have the magnitude of worry. In some people, it's astonishing. They worry about everything. They worry about their health. They worry about the health of their family members. They worry about losing a job, even though they're still working fine. They're doubtful on their own performance, and they worry about being fired. And they have all kinds of worry. If you have worries, you cannot live peacefully. So you have to understand where the worry comes from, how that arises. By meditation, you see the snake of every of this is a snake, you know. I've been using the snake as an example. The anger is a snake, resentment is a snake, worry is a snake. All the snakes, 26 of them, are all here. And when we're meditating, if any one of these come up, you get a bamboo stick and push down his head. Don't let it come up. Have you already have a bamboo stick at home when you're meditating? It's easy. You get one from the farm. We have a lot of bamboo sticks. Don't cut though, we have dry ones. Don't try to cut off the bamboos. We have long dry ones. You get to know some of the people who are responsible for the farm. They have dry bamboo stick. You just put it by the side of the meditation stool. And then you start to meditate. And I have a thought of, I have a craving comes up. You get the stick and you push. That snake comes up, opening its mouth at you and try to snipe at you. Then you push that down. No, don't come up. If you don't touch the stick, you don't know. It would bite you. That's how I meditate. When a thought comes up in me, no, I don't want this thought. I want to get this. I'm up to a point now where I don't have to get the stick up. I touched it. Because I know I touched it and the stick comes down. But it still comes up. Wait till a time where there's no snakes anymore. You are a bodhisattva. So you have this concealing, the stick of concealing, the stick of deceit. You always deceive people. Next is flattery. You always flatter people. Oh, you look nice today. In your mind, this guy is terrible. Your colleague's doing a lousy job and is in competition with you. He did it wrong and say, oh, that's a good job you performed today. Carry on, carry on. You want him to get fired. It's flattery. Next is arrogance. Next is hostility, envy. Next is parsimony. Parsimony. You know what parsimony is? P-A-R, it spells P-A-R-S-I-M-O-N-Y. Parsimony. Parsimony is being frugal in everything, not on yourself. So last time we stopped at Mala. Tadyata Om, the second middle of the page in the second paragraph. Tadyata Om Avaloki Lokate Karante Ehirahi Maha Bodhisattva. Sava Mala. And we've been we've been talking for a long time because Mala is a metaphor for mental afflictions in our mind. The Buddha expound in great detail about the mind, the structure of the mind, and which in the current day English is consciousness. And we classify the 8 consciousnesses. Consciousness is Vijnana in the Sanskrit language. 8 consciousnesses. So the 8 consciousnesses in our interaction with daily life arise at the same time. But these 8 consciousnesses arise, they do not just arise by themselves. They arise because of outer objects, because they interact with all outer objects, and at the same time, internally, they have arising mental afflictions, 51 mental functions arising. I have mentioned that the 51 mental functions are categorized into 5 aspects. One is omnipotent factors, which contain 5 mental functions, and the objective contingent factors, which comprises another 5. And then there's also the third category, mental afflictions, which have 26. I already have mentioned. But I have not mentioned 2 others, so I really have to finish it up to mention 2 others. I mentioned the 3 aspects only. So there's another 2 categories which I need to mention to you. Mental afflictions contain craving, ill will, ignorance, doubt, indulgence, sluggishness, hatred, anger, and all those I already have mentioned. Now, how about the 4th category? The 4th category are wholesome mental functions, wholesome ones. Mental afflictions are the unwholesome ones. Now, because in our mind, when our consciousnesses interact with outer surroundings, what arises is not just in our mind internally, it's not just unwholesome mental factors, also wholesome mental factors. Faith, conscience, shame, no craving, no ill will, no ignorance, diligence, complacency, indifference, care, and non-hostility. Now, I'm not going to explain in detail which one, because if you look at the unwholesome factors and compare to wholesome ones, then you'll be able to figure out what they mean. Now, that includes 11 of them, wholesome mental factors. Now, the last 5th category is the indeterminate categories. In other words, you cannot classify them as wholesome or unwholesome. Sometimes in your thought, when you interact with outer surrounding, the thought comes up, cannot be classified as wholesome thought or unwholesome thought. It's indeterminate. Sometimes it's wholesome, sometimes unwholesome. Now, there are 4 indeterminate mental functions. The first one is regret. Regret can be wholesome and can be unwholesome. Maybe I need to explain, otherwise you don't know. Well, why is regret is indeterminate? Sometimes it could be wholesome and unwholesome. For example, you have done something wholesome. You make donations. You help our friend. And you've done something right. And then you donated, for example, you donate out of generosity, you donate $10,000 to a certain organization. And to you, it's a lot of money. And then after you donated it, a few days later, you think about it. Oh, gee, I shouldn't donate that much money. It's not right donating that much money. Oh, I shouldn't have done it. You regret it. You regret something you have done right. That is, so it's indeterminate. Regret sometimes is on the good side and sometimes could be on the bad side. Or somebody asks for your help and you say, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to get into trouble. It's your business, none of my business. You reject to help that friend. You should have, but you didn't want to, because out of egoistic feeling, out of the feeling of hostility, out of the feeling that you don't want to be implicated into the kind of affairs that your friend is involved in. But later you regret it. This is something that you should have done and you haven't, you regret it. So this regret is indeterminate as a mental function in your mind. It happens to you all the time. I remember there was a lady, a lay woman, few years ago, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. We have a few nuns in here, and this lady, she liked a nun in here, and she said, "Oh, let's go out for lunch. I would like to invite you to a lunch." So the senior nun being invited, okay, I would like to go with you. So they went to a vegetarian restaurant, and so look at the menu, and the lady said, "Just order anything you want. Don't worry about the price. Just order anything you want, anything you like to eat." So the nun, being honest, she ordered what she liked to eat, and it happened that what she liked to eat is quite expensive. So after eating, when they paid the bill, the lady looked at it, wow, $120. 2 persons, $120? And she started to feel very unhappy. Oh, you shouldn't have ordered that expensive item. But the nun said, "You told me to order anything I want. And you also mentioned don't look at the price, just order anything you like." So I ordered the thing I like, and it happened that what we order is quite expensive. And the lady regret. "Oh no, she told me that nun is not right. I invited her to lunch, and she invited the most expensive." What I said, that is an indeterminate factor of mental functions in the mind. You regret something you have done right. It's good to invite someone to a lunch, but you regret it. I said, you already have spent $120, and you told the nun that you can order anything you want as long as you like it, and now you regret it. Throw away that regret. It's good to give someone happiness by inviting him or her to a lunch. So regret is indeterminate. Okay, regret. Dull-mindedness or drowsiness. Drowsiness sometimes is indeterminate because it's dull-minded on something good. It could be on something bad. So it's indeterminate. The third is discovery. Or investigate, discovery. Sometimes when you want to discover something good, it's good for you. You want to discover something bad, it's bad for you. So it's indeterminate. It's just like, why do we call it indeterminate? It's just like when you're using the online system, the website, any website, the internet. They say now the internet can provide you with a lot of chances to learn, to have fun. You listen to a piece of music, you don't really have to go to the theater, you don't really have to go to places that music houses or buy records. So you can access the internet for good music, for something you want to learn. You like to learn drawing, you like to anything you want to learn, you get it from the internet. But if you try to discover decent information, to learn something you're interested in decently, is good for you. On the other hand, if you want to discover something bad, it's extremely detrimental to you. The other day I also told you we have seats in our life consciousness. It's worthwhile to repeat it again. This kind of seats, we call it seat, it's just metaphorical. The energy in our consciousness and energy. And this energy is an accumulation of past experiences. Whenever you're interacting, your senses, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your tongue, you know those 8 senses. When those sense organs interact with the outside world, consciousness is being created. When consciousness is being created, that means there's an instant exuding of past experiences into the things you interact, into the affairs you interact. And exuding out from alaya consciousness, because in your alaya consciousness there is a vast accumulation of past experiences and impressions and dispositions. And we call them seeds. They are hidden when they're not expressed. If I have seeds of anger in me, you induce my anger, you do something that make me angry, then my seeds of anger is agitated, and then it's being expressed by volitional action of boom, striking a fist at you. So that's the action is not manifest, it's not seeds. Seeds is hidden in your consciousness. And then when it's manifested, it's called manifest activity. You have to understand this. Well, there's first-time comers probably don't know what I'm talking about. It's good for you anyway. Now you know that Buddhism is not just blind faith. It's about the study of the mind, about the study how you interact with people, about the study of how an anger comes up so that you can subdue your anger, how jealousy, hatred, depression, all these things come up. How do you recognize them? How do you understand them? How do you talk to them? And how do you subdue them? How do you overcome them? That's Buddhism. Nothing about kneeling down in prostration and get blessings from Buddha. Now you know that, eh? All right, getting back to this. So I said discovery. When you interact with the outside world, there's an exuding of past experiences, previous life experiences that store in there, present life experiences, transforming all the environments that you want to interact. So when I see things differently than when you see things. Why? Because your past experiences is different from mine. When someone talks to me, it has an infuriating connotation. But in me, because my seeds of anger and hostility is not as strong as yours, you think that is an insult. I don't think so. I think that is just a comment that I don't need to attach to. I don't get angry, but you get angry. It's different. No one is the same. All right. So, seeds produce manifest activity. If you take notes, this is a very important word. Seeds produce manifest activity. Now, I got potential in my alaya consciousness, and I interact with the outside world. These seeds this potential get educated, and these seeds produces manifest activity, produces the anger, jealousy, hatred, laziness, all name it, produce volitional actions, which are manifest activities. So seeds produce manifest activity. And manifest activity, once produced, in turn, perfume the seeds. In other words, as I give an example, you click on something bad, something obscene. You think, and you see it. You think that's it? No. The effect is geometrical. When you see it, your sense is agitated. It perfumes back the seed again. That means it's like a snowball rolling down the glacier. You think just the snowball just rolled down? It rolls down in a much more momentum than before. In other words, when you want to see something is bad, you want to continue. You want to continue. You want to discover more. You want to scrutinize more. It rolls until your seeds becomes perfume. Your seeds becomes even worse than before. So why do we meditate? We have to exercise the control on the mind. Don't think that controlling your own mind is stupid. I like to be free. I like to do whatever I want. I like to think what I want to think. I want to do whatever I want. You got to put control on you. That control helps to liberate you from being controlled by the seeds and by the environments. So seeds produce manifest activities, and the manifest activities so produce perfume the seeds again. So the three processes happen in a chain. What are these three processes? Seeds, manifest activity, and the perfuming. These three things. It happened not just when you click on the computer. It happens now. It happened now. You don't know about it. How did it happen now? In your mind, you have that intention to learn about Buddhism. You have that intention of being wholesome. You have that intention of being, I want to have a peaceful mind. I want to learn about enlightenment. I want to be peaceful on a Saturday morning. I don't want to go partying. I don't want to go to McDonald's. I don't want to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken for breakfast. I want to come to the temple for a peaceful meditation. So that is the thought in you. And that thought drives your feet to get into your car, to ignite the car and drive all the way from Burnaby or wherever. Come to Richmond, attend this morning meditation session, and then you chant, you meditate. That becomes a manifest activity. That manifest activity in turn produces perfume it. You're circumambulating, you're listening to the monk talking about mala mala, talking about mental functions, and that perfume back to you. So there's a lot of perfuming going on. So seeds produce manifest activities. Manifest activities so produce, in turn, perfume the seeds. Then these three processes happen in a chain instantaneously, and it never gets erased. It's in your computer. It's in your memory. It's reinforced. So how glad are you coming for a peaceful meditation this morning? You should cherish it. How many people come for meditation? Not very many people. What do they do if they don't come for meditation? They just slept in. They have their wild dream. So, seeds produce manifest activities produce, perfume the seeds, and these three processes affect each other instantaneously. And all these occur simultaneously with causality. In other words, cause and effect happen instantaneously and simultaneously together. Cause and effect. Okay, so that's discovery. So the indeterminate factors contain four. I already have mentioned regret. You cannot determine it as wholesome or unwholesome. It's changeable, indeterminate. Regret, drowsiness, discovery, and last but not least is scrutiny or analysis. Analysis could be good or bad. If you analyze the right stuff, the right thing is good. If you analyze the bad thing as bad, it's indeterminate. So if you add all this together, 5 omnipotent factors, 5 objective contingent factors, 26 mental afflictions, 11 wholesome mental factors, and 4 indeterminate. All these 51 broad categories of mental functions happen at the same time when your senses interact with all outside world. It comes at the same time. Right timing. So now you know that our senses are constantly interacting environments. I'm looking at you, my eyes interact, you're looking at me, your eyes interact, your ears interact. Do your nose interact? Yes, you're smelling something from fragrance from the kitchen, and you're thinking about the food. Occasionally you think, oh, this is going to be a delicious lunch. I can smell it from here. So your nose is interacting at the same time. Your taste is not at rest. Your tongue is at rest now, but at the same time, you have a very minute feeling of tasting your own saliva. You may not know about it because you have been doing that interaction all the time. And how about your body? So your body, your tactile consciousness, you're touching everything. You're holding your notebook, you're writing, so you're always constantly touching. So actually, when you are listening to me, all your consciousnesses are at work. Your visual consciousness is at work. Your auditory consciousness is at work. Your olfactory consciousness, the smelling, is at work. Your gustatory or your tasting consciousness is at work, tasting your own saliva. And your tasting consciousness will be working more ferociously than not now, but at lunchtime, when you're tasting everything. And then your tactile consciousness now is at work because you're writing, you're touching. And how about your thinking consciousness? Your thinking consciousness is investigating, determining whether you believe it or not, thinking, analyzing, discovering, is at work all the time. How about your manners consciousness, your egoistic consciousness? Oh yeah, I know this. Oh yeah, okay. I didn't take my notes. Did you take the notes? Do a good job for me. So anything that I cannot take, you take it for me. I talked to you already. So all these things worked. All these things, the ego is always there. It has never left you. And then how about this allied consciousness? It stores everything. So when all this consciousness is at work, at the same time, all these ministers, 51 ministers, mental functions, they are at work too. I like this, I don't like this, I hate this, I recollect, I have no feeling about it. All these things are at work at the same time. So when you come to think of this is just one word for the newcomers. When you get angry, it's not your outer surrounding that infuriate you. It's you. You let that mental function arise. When you are angry, when you are jealous, when you have hatred, when you remember past experiences, you're unhappy about it, the past is already gone. How can past things, gone, invisible, infuriate you now, make you unhappy now? They're already gone, but you attached to it. You brought it back. You brought it back. Oh, you have terrible experiences. You brought it back. You just divorced your wife and you have a broken family. You don't like it. You brought it back. Your past experiences, you brought it back through your eye consciousness and attached to it. So don't blame the environments for it. You internally are always simultaneously, instantly working in tandem with the environment, and all these mental afflictions come up. Sometimes wholesome, sometimes unwholesome, and sometimes these mental afflictions induce you into manifest activities like killing, lying, slandering, cursing, stealing, sexual misconduct, sometimes criminal offenses. You name them. It's all in the newspapers. Vancouver Sun, Globe and Mail. Check it. As I always said, lay down these 51 mental factors, point by point. Flip the newspaper. Oh, this is jealousy because of that. This is hatred. This is violence. You can always tie it. You can always tie these mental afflictions in your mind with what happens in events of Vancouver Sun. And sometimes people say, earthquake, tsunami. How does it do with my mental affliction? I never expected. I didn't do anything wrong. It relates to previous lives, karma. And that includes a lot of details when talking about previous lives. All right, I finished everything. Actually, I intend not to talk about mala mala anymore. But I have these two factors, indeterminate factors and wholesome factors, which you need to know. Because the mind is not just unwholesome, the mind is also wholesome. But then the mental afflictions is 26. The wholesome is only 11. So we have more unwholesome mental functions than wholesome ones. As we all understand, mantra and dharani. A mantra is in the shorter form and dharani is in the longer form. The word dharani is a Sanskrit word. It means combining it all together like a rosary where you have all the beads. The rosary is a string that tie all the beads together. In other words, Dharani summarize certain philosophy, certain meaning together in a brief form so that you can remember it. And that's what a Dharani is. And last time we stopped at Mala Mala, which is, turn to the Dharani. The second paragraph is Tadhyata. And then Tadhyata Om Avaloki Lokate Karante E Hirahi Maha Bodhisattva Sava Sava Mala Mala. I stopped at Mala Mala and I've been talking on Mala Mala for a few weeks. The reason why I've been talking on Mala Mala for a few weeks is Mala Mala, Mala, the word itself means garbage. And here, this word garbage is a metaphor for mental garbage or mental afflictions that we have. How many mental afflictions we have? If we broadly summarize our mental afflictions, remember we have greediness, hatred, violence, jealousy, fraudulence, arrogance, injuries, you name them. We already learned them. Briefly, 51. All these are the mental disturbances, mental afflictions that arise at the same time that when our senses interact with the outside world, creating these consciousnesses. We have 8 consciousnesses. These 8 consciousnesses are the major, we call them the consciousnesses king, because they are the major items, predispositions arise from the mind, and then they are assisted at the same time simultaneously by all these other 51 mental afflictions. And we already have mentioned Mala Mala. Now let's go to the next, Mahima Hridayam. What does this Sanskrit means? Mahima Hridayam. As we all know, Maha means great. Maha in the Indian language, it's a Sanskrit language. Still, even now, the Indian language, if you mention Maha, they know it's the Taj Mahal, the great, you know. Mahima means great. Mahima also means great. And also, every word, Sanskrit word in a Dharani, it contains so much meaning into it that what's the meaning of great? You really have to go deep into it, but we don't plan to, because if we go every word go deeply into its meaning, we would have to spend a lot of time into it. So, for now, for Mala Mala is important to explain because that's our mental afflictions, and they arise all the time. You may not know about it, you may not realize it, but they arise all the time. So, in order to understand your mind, then you have to learn all those consciousness and mental afflictions. And the other day there was a gentleman who was in the class, maybe a newcomer, and he mentioned that Buddhism is like a psychology. It's like a course of psychology. Yes, Buddhism is a course of psychology, except that this course of psychology takes 20 years to explain. because it's so deep, so profound. And also, this psychology is not just to analyze other people. It also analyzes about yourself, your own mind. And it's not just about analysis of it. The Buddha wants us to understand our own mind first, and then attempt to liberate yourself from the prison of your own mind. It has to be done by you, nobody else. It's just like the person who tied the bell into the sheep's neck, and he put a knot to it. The person who tied it, the person who untied it has to be the person who tied it. I don't know if you understand what I mean. The person who untied it must be the person who tied it. Don't get anybody else to do it. Nobody else can. You understand your own mind. You liberate your own mind. Nobody can, not even God. If God can liberate you, can liberate your mind, He has already done so. You don't have to wait. Because you have to do it yourself. So that's the difference between modern psychology and the Buddha's teaching. You analyze it, you liberate it yourself. And in the liberation, it's not just empty talk. It's not just language. It's your practice. And this practice, if you want to summarize it, is in 3 words. The first one is discipline. The second one is samadhi. The third is prajna. In common English is disciplined, concentration, and wisdom. So, mahi mahi means great. Hridayam means the heart. Hridayam means heart, or the soul, or the mind. Why do we have to study the heart? In the ancient times, the heart means the brain. I said it with my heart. How can the heart feel anything? The heart is just a center of the palpitation, a center of where the blood comes into, and then dissemination. The heart itself is not the brain, but usually we use the heart as the brain. From the bottom of my heart, in other words, from the bottom of my mind. So Hridayam means heart. Kuru kamam. Kuru, that means you have to attempt to do it. Do it. Kamam, that means done. You must attempt to do it. You must carry on to practice. You must do it yourself. You must untie the knot yourself. Don't depend on others. Do it yourself. Do it until it is done. Don't just do it and never get it done. In other words, being enlightened, and having been enlightened. You have to finish it, complete it. That is kuru kamam. Attempt it until it is all done. Duru vijayate. Duru means hold fast onto it. Be consistent. Hold on and never let go of it. Hold fast, hold on and never let go. Duru, hold on, hold fast. This is very important. Sometimes we don't have the patience to do it. We do it one day and we drop it off another day, and pick it up again the 3rd day and drop it off on the 4th day. You have to have the endurances to do it. You have to have the confidence to do it, and you must do it consistently. When you practice meditation, or when you interact with the outside world, if you interact with the outside world with compassion, you do it consistently, all the time. Not just one day I have compassion. So you have to hold fast, hold on to it, be consistent with it. Your compassion must be consistently applied. Vijayate. What is vijayate? Victory. If you do that, you're the victor. In other words, hold fast, hold on until you become liberated from it. until you achieve victory. Maha Vijayate. Maha, as I said, means great. Vijayate, that means victory, the victor. All right. Okay, so I want to go a little faster now because I've been talking on this mantra for months. For how many months? 5 months. So I need to go faster. But remember, each word contains a lot of profound meaning. Don't just look at the word itself. Why didn't we translate it into, say, hold fast, hold on, victory, confidence, and all that? Because you simply cannot translate like that. Because one word contains so much meaning onto it. So we don't translate Dharani because it has profound and multifaceted meaning in every word. Right. Let's carry on. Dhara, dhara. It means holding on again. Dharanisvaraya. Dharani, that means a summary. Dharani is dharani. It means a summary of it, holding on to it, remember it. Holding on to it, remember it. So when we are chanting our Dharani, that means we're remembering the Buddha's teaching. Maha Karunika Chitta Dharani. Maha is great. Karunika means kindness, compassion, mercifulness. Chitta means the heart. It's from the heart. Dharani, that means a summary of it. It's a Dharani of great compassion and great mercifulness from the heart. So Dharani, that means a summary of it, to remember it. Dharani Svaraya. Svaraya, that means the one who is liberated. If you do it like that, if you chant the Dharani all the time, remember it, commit it to your alaya consciousness, and practice it accordingly, then one day you will liberate yourself from mental afflictions. You'll be the liberator. You liberate yourself. You untie the knot. Next, Chala, chala. That means move, move. Carry on, carry on. So the whole Dharani, it consists of doing something. You can't just sit there doing nothing. You have to enlighten yourself, work hard at it. So anyone who is chanting the Dharani is very confident in himself, very positive in himself. He's interacting with the society, but at the same time, he's practicing compassion. He's moving on with the society, not just be negative about it, not just retreat from it. He's participating in it, but he participates with no attachment. No attachment to greed, no attachment to jealousy, no attachment to hatred, no attachment to violence, arrogance. None of that exists, but he still moves on and on. So chala, chala means go, go. Mama vimala muktele. Mama means me, my. Vimala. Vimala is pure, purity. Muktele, liberation. My purity, liberation. That means, what are we trying to purify? Purity, yeah, talking about purity. What are we trying to purify? We're trying to purify the society, right? Or people say, we cannot purify the society until we purify ourselves. Unless we purify our mind. The society cannot be pure if the minds of all individuals in that society is not pure. So we are trying to purify. But what are we purifying? We're purifying our clothes, make it look nice. We're purifying 3 items, 3 things. We're purifying our behavior. So we are purifying our body. What does the body do? The body performs behavior. So we're purifying our body, which means that we're purifying our behavior. What did our body do, though? Why are you purifying your body? Your body is good enough. Your behavior is good enough. Why do we need to purify it? There's so many impure actions, behavior that the body performs. What are these? Just to name roughly Killing. Well, I'm not killing anything. I'm not killing any individuals. We're killing animals for food. Killing. And of course, this is just broad generalizations. What behavioral problems that you have? The other day, remember I mentioned crime against children research published some figures saying that 66% of all teenagers nowadays exposed to online pornography. And that affects their behavioral problems, that affects their grades, that affects their personality, that affects their habits. We have all kinds of problems in our behavior. Being affected by the society, affected by the family, affected by your own education. So many problems. I'm just naming something crude and easily understandable. Killing, injuries, stealing, sexual misconduct. All these are very crude, very easily understandable behavior. Plus all these other behaviors, the list is inexhaustible. Flip to the newspapers and list out all these behavioral problems that individuals have, that people in the society have. You'll come up with a list that it will never end. So, what are we trying to purify? The body, our behavior, our speech. We curse, we flatter, we lie. Purify it. The mouth. The mouth is very harmful. The mouth can kill. The mouth can double tongue. Telling can double tongue. The mouth is like a knife stabbed into people's back. Purify your mouth. And who drives behavior and speech? Who is the manager that manages behavior and speech? Here. The thinking consciousness. Purify your thinking consciousness. So, mala mala, purify, purify. What do we purify? One word, purity, it contains a lot of meaning that you should research and investigate on. Once you understand it, you practice it accordingly. Not just understanding the language, and you are sufficient. Understanding the language is sufficient, but you really have to practice it out. Empty words, they don't mean too much. It's to practice. Muktele, if you purify to such a point that you're all pure, you're liberated. Your karma is all pure. No more karma, no more life and death, no more suffering, no more killing, no more drunken driving, no more broken homes, no more abused children, no more poverty, no more famine, no more wars, no more genocide. We don't need the newspapers to tell us what happened today or yesterday and about all these wrongdoings that people have done, because we know we are all pure. Liberation, all liberated. Today, we would like to continue with explanation on the Mahakarunika Chitta Dharani. And last time we stopped at Dara Dara Dharanisvaraya Chala Chala Mama Vimala Muktile. We stopped at Muktile. So, Mama, Sanskrit word, Mama, that means my. Vimala means purity, pure. And Muktile means liberation. So it is my purity and my liberation. Of course, it contains a lot of meaning in purity and liberation. But a mantra would only give you the key points in it. A mantra would not give the detailed explanation. It just gives the key points. But then when you come to chant it, what are we trying to purify? Our clothes? It get dirty, you purify our clothes? And to purify is to make it clean. What do we do to purify our body every day? What do we do to make it clean? What do we do? Take a bath. We use soap, ivory, whatever you want to use. Shampoo to clean your hair. You're cleaning, you're taking a bath every day to clean up your body. We only thought of cleaning the body, but we never thought of cleaning our own mind. Do we need to clean our mind? How do we clean it? My brain, how do I clean my brain? My brain, how can I clean it? The Buddha taught us how to clean our mind. What does the mind do? Thoughts originate from the mind. What kind of thoughts? Wholesome thoughts, unwholesome thoughts, indeterminate thoughts. And previously I already explained, we have more unwholesome thoughts coming up than wholesome thoughts. Our mind drives us to behave. Our behavior comes from thought, behavior. What kind of behavior do we do every day? We do wholesome and unwholesome ones. Sometimes we are kind, sometimes we are considerate. Those are the wholesome behavior. We're very polite, ladies first, And don't ask me why, we always go gentlemen first to the refectory. So, we have behavior. What kind of behavior? Sometimes we go to extreme. Fighting, killing, what else? Stealing, what else? Sexual misconduct, what else? Lots of them. Refer to the newspapers, the Globe and Mail, Vancouver Sun. How much misbehavior resulted in crimes? Do we need to purify them? Yes. What does the mind drive us to do? Our mouth, speech. What does the mouth do? The mouth, curse, lie, slander, flattery. What else? Bad language, double tongue, tattletelling, stabbing people back using language. The minds drive that. So, what are we trying to purify? Our mind. We purify our body, which means behavior, our mouth, which means speech, and our mind, which means the thoughts arising from it. So that's what we're purifying. Whenever you chant this mantra, oh, Mama Vimala Muktile, Mama Vimala Muktile, that means I have to purify my body, my speech, my behavior. Not just body physically per se, the body. I have to purify my behavior, my speech, and my thought. So what is the result if you really can purify these? I didn't see any result. So what's the use of purifying them? When you purified your mind, your thought, your speech, what comes? Good karma comes. Pure karma comes. When you always stay away from cursing, stay away from flattery, stay away from lying, you will always stay away from, behaviorally speaking, you'll stay away from sexual misconduct, you stay away from intoxication, you stay away from drugs, you stay away from bad conduct. What's the result? You lead a happy life. Because whatever bad things you have done, bad deeds, you think you can get away with them? There's cause and effect. You can't get away from karma. Karma will get you. The police may not be able to get you. If you're clever, if you're a very clever crime imposer, crime actor, I don't know. criminal, if you're a clever criminal, the police may not get you, but causality, karma, would get you one day. You can't get away with it. So if somebody done you wrong, don't always have grudges in yourself. Forgive, because anyway, karma will get him. You don't want karma to get him, but naturally, spontaneously, by the law of cause and effect, karma will get him. So you always have to purify it. And if we purify all this, what's the result? And muktele is the result. Liberation. You're liberated from your cocoon or ego. You're liberated from all your mental afflictions. You are liberated from unhappiness because you're always pure. When you come to the temple, this has been a joke that I've been always talking about, and I encounter many times comments like that. I come to the temple for blessings. I come to the temple for blessings, and you, Reverend, you're telling me that I have to purify myself? And you're always telling me that everything is impermanent and I'm going to die. So I'm not happy coming to the temple. Coming to the temple to get blessings is, I want this, I want that. That's not the teaching of the Buddha. That's superstition. If you just, I want this, I want blessings from the Buddha. A practice is two-way, twofold in every practice. One is depending on your own efforts. That is by meditation, by purifying yourself, by improving yourself. That's one aspect. That is the yourself, coming from yourself aspect of the practice. Another is from others' help, from the Bodhisattva's help, from the Buddha's help. There are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and arahats who are ready to help you. But first of all, you must walk the line first. You must walk the path. You must initiate that first step. You can't just sit there and let Buddha bless you and you don't do anything. You continue to do your bad thoughts. You continue to be a criminal. You continue to be impure, and you are expecting God or Buddha to bless you. Why don't you improve on yourself first? You got to walk that path yourself. Don't rely on Buddha to give you everything the best you want. You create your own world with your own hands, with your inconceivable mind. You can create your own destiny, create your own bright future. Don't depend on the Buddha to do it. Don't depend on God. You can do it yourself. Starting from tomorrow, whatever you want to do, as long as they're wholesome, compassionate, considerate, they're on the right path, righteous, you get it done. But you've got to lay out the methods to do it. You've got to have the confidence to do it. You've got to have the persistency to do it. Again, we're coming to the cause of positive thinking. In Buddhism, it's all positive. Life is negative, but Buddhism is positive. You can't be a lazy practitioner. You got to walk, do it, try your efforts. Next. So, Mama Vimala Muktene Ehi, Zina. Ehi, that means come, you got to do it. Zina is still untranslatable. We still don't know, because this sutra is more than 3,000 years, 2,600 years old, and Sanskrit has developed, and a lot of changes in the language, so we don't even know what the meaning of zina and zina is. And so we don't even translate it. Anazam prachari, that means the saintly affairs develop. Such a saintly practice, a saintly method gradually develop. It develops out. Visavisam prasaya. Visavisam, that means universally. Prasaya, that means having conquered. Having conquered what? Having conquered your own mental afflictions, having conquered your own illusions, having conquered your own ignorance. Hulu, hulu, mara. Hulu, hulu, that means quick, quick. Hulu, hulu means quick, quick. That means when you do this liberation, when you do this purity, when you want to improve yourself, don't wait. Do it now. Get your first step out. Don't procrastinate. A lot of people procrastinate in doing many, many things. Why don't I wait? I think about it. Oh, maybe I shouldn't do it. Should I go to university? Maybe I shouldn't. I haven't got the marks yet. Oh, how do I do it? Well, people say that you really have to work hard at grade 12, and now I'm at grade 11. Well, should I plan to go to university? Oh, I'll see. Maybe I'll travel for 3 years and up to grade 12 and come back again. You haven't made a decision. You always procrastinate on what you're doing. The Buddha said, quick, quick, make a decision. Do it, do it. Visavisam hulu, hulu, mara. So whenever you want to do something, always think of this hulu, hulu. Means quick, quick, do it fast. Mara, that means strong being. You have to be strong, you have to have the confidence. So mara also means the devil, I mean the strong. Devil is also strong. What entices you, what attracts you, what charms you, the mara is also very strong. The world is full of enticements. The world is full of things that attract your attentions, that entice you to do something bad. Stay away from it. You'll be stronger than them. You'll be stronger than the objects that draw your attention. You always put your mind under control. If you don't put your mind under control, like when you're playing with your Facebook, 1 hour has passed away, the second hour, third hours, you know that you're not right. You know that you're squandering your precious time away on the Facebook. You're squandering your precious time away on seeing something that does not mean anything. But you still go on and on and on and on because you're not strong enough. You're not strong enough to pull yourself back. You be strong. Hulu, hulu, mara. Hulu, hulu, mara. You be strong on yourself. Hulu, hulu, hirihi, the next line. Hulu, hulu, hirihi. Hulu, hulu means quick, quick. Hirihi, what is hirihi? Hirihi is the seed syllable of Amitabha and Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. Hirihi is a very strong, very, very important word, or if we put it in common English language, it is a word of energy. Hirihi, a word of energy. It combines 4 sounds. Ha, ra, I, a. Hariya, hirihi, hirihi. Hirihi, it combines ha, ra, I, a. Ha, ha, ha means cause. But this is actually independent of cause and effect. It's beyond cause and effect. Beyond cause and effect. It also symbolizes air, according to some Sanskrit explanation. Dra means purity. It cannot be polluted with dirt and dust. It also symbolizes fire. The like the English word alphabet for it is I. I is pronounced in Sanskrit as E and not as I. So E consists of 3 perspectives in it. Remember the 3 bodies? The Dhamma body is invisible. There's no form. The Dhammakaya, Dhamma body. It's the Tathagata, the suchness, the invisible, the essence of it, the nomina of it. If I borrow the word from Kant, remember Kant, the Western philosophers mentioned that there is phenomena outside and there's also the phenomena inside. The phenomena is all visible. The nomina is invisible. That is the Dhammakaya. And then there's also the prajna, and that is also the liberation, emancipation. So there's 3 levels in E. And the A means sunyata and existing. Sunyata is emptiness. Everything is empty. Empty does not mean it is nothing. Empty because it does not have its own svabhava. It does not have its own nature. It comes together because of causes and is impermanent. Everything is like that. Everything is empty because everything comes together because of causes. And that's the law of causality. Nothing does not become itself without causes. The fact that you're coming here today is without causes. Think about it. Why did you come today? I'm a first-time comer. And I heard about a temple, and maybe I go to meditate for a day to see what they're doing. It's interesting, right? I Google and find out that meditation it's helpful, so it's helpful for me. So what are the causes? So many causes to bring you here today. My brother's giving a lift. He's going to the gym, and I give me a lift, and he dropped me off at the temple, so I came here, and he promised to pick me up at 12:30. So all these are causes to bring you here. Nothing happened without a cause. And nothing disintegrates without a cause. Nothing becomes successful without a cause. And nothing becomes unsuccessful without a cause. Nothing fails with no cause. And some people will say, what does that teach me? I know. Everything has a cause, have a reason for it. I know everything has a reason for it, have the cause for it. How does that help me? Because you haven't opened your door of wisdom to see how that law of emptiness, that law of causality help you. Let me tell you, when you know that there's causality in everything, what are you going to do? You're going to make causes. You're going to make it happen. I want to be successful. You're going to make successful causes happen. I have been talking on this mantra, the explanation of it, for many weeks. And today, I have half an hour to go. I would like to finish it up today. So last time we stopped at Zara Zara, Ziri Ziri, which is about half a page. On the left-hand side, you see Hulu, Hulu, Mara, Hulu, Hulu, Hirahi, Zara, Zara, Ziri, Ziri. That's where I stopped last time. So I would like to continue to explain it. As we all know, a mantra or Dharani is translated from Sanskrit. And I have been trying to explain the meaning of it, the Sanskrit meaning of it. The pronunciation is in alphabets. It's easier to pronounce it because it's just like in simple English pronunciation. Zara, Zara, Ziri, Ziri, but the meaning is quite profound, and because this has been mantra that has been translated for more than 2,500 years. So, and this development of Sanskrit since the ancient times has been changing. It's just like any languages, any language. The Chinese language, English language, they all evolve through the centuries. And some of these words, we don't even know the meaning. So, for example, Zara, Zara, nobody knows how to translate it. The meaning has not been clear. So we didn't translate it. Ziri, Ziri, has various meaning. It means light, it means auspiciousness, it means victory. In other words, it's an auspicious word. Ziri, Ziri is an auspicious word. As I explained in the first day when I tried to explain the mantra, one word contains a lot of meaning to it. So people or the practitioners of the Buddhist teaching usually don't translate mantra, don't translate Dharani, don't translate mantra, because one word contains so much meaning. Like, for example, the word Om Mani Padme Hum. Om, that word Om, since the ancient translators up to even now, they don't translate the meaning. They just preserve the pronunciation Om, because Om means a lot. It means the origin of all sound, the origin of all good deeds, the origin of all merits. So Om, Ahom, Om is the meaning of all. It's the origin of most sound, so they don't translate it. For example, Padme, lotus, and the lotus contains a lot of meaning. Why do they use the word lotus? Lotus means purity. A lotus flower is grown from the mud, and yet it's detached from the mud. It's from the dirt, but when it grows up, it's so pure. So the Buddhist teaching used lotus flower as a symbol of purity. Purity is from dirt, but it itself is not attached to the dirt. It's just like in this world, this is a world of mental afflictions, a world of wars, a world of sufferings, a world of many unhappiness. And of course, this is also a world of happiness, but happiness is ephemeral, it's short term. How can we be happy if we know that there is death confronting us, if we know that there's sickness confronting us, if we know that there's aging confronting us? Yes, we have temporary happiness, it's not eternal. So ultimately speaking, this is a world of suffering. This is a world of suffering, and who induces us to all these sufferings? Who create all this suffering? Is it God, or did we create the suffering ourselves? We carry the karma ourselves into this life and into the next life if we don't get enlightened. In other words, we always roll ourselves in the paths of reincarnations, the 6 paths of reincarnation, carry ourselves with a lot of karma through. Karma, you should know about karma. We spend a lot of time in explaining karma, common karma, individual karma. So, one word can contain a lot of meaning. So getting back to this, because I would like to finish it today, Ziri, this word contains a lot of connotations to it. It means light as compared to darkness. When you see light from the darkness, you see light when there is hope. That is development. Auspiciousness and victory also, it means that way. Zuru, we can't find the appropriate word for it. Sanskrit has evolved for centuries. We don't know what it means, so we don't usually translate that. Next is Buddhaya. What does Buddha means to you? Buddha means a statue, a wooden statue, a stone statue, not just a material. Bud means what? Bud means complete understanding of the universal truth, a complete understanding of the whole universe. There's Bud. The is the person who understands the universe. Do we understand the universe? There's a lot of unknown things we don't understand. Our knowledge only extends to a very limited area of the whole universe. So a Buddha is, or the person who has enlightened himself in the understanding of everything in the universe. Not God. He is the person who is completely enlightened. And because of his completely enlightened, he was able to be detached from life and death. In other words, in his process of enlightening himself, he has purified all his own karma. And he does not have to roll into the next path of reincarnation. He's beyond life and death. We, sentient beings, we're not beyond it. We are in life and death. We'll live this life through, and we roll into the next life. As I always give myself an example, I give everybody an example. This body is like a hotel, like an apartment, or like a hotel, whatever examples you want to use. You check in when you zoom into your mother's womb. You check in. And one day you got to check out. You got no choice. You check in, you check out one day. You check in, you check out. Life after life, you're changing your form. You're John in one life, you're Janet in the next life, you're William in the next life. You change your form, you change your hotels all the time, checking in different hotels. But who is checking in and out? It's the same you. Nobody else can check it out for you. It's the same you that has been rolling into that form all the time. And we don't recognize it. So, what makes us doing that? What makes us suffer? Is it God that makes us suffer? Is the environments that make us suffer? Is you yourself. You did all this yourself. You create your own destiny. You cultivate all these causes. And the law of causality said you have that cause, you have that effect. Nobody else, not God. Don't blame God for it. At the same time, you don't have to praise God for creation. You created yourself, not God. You are your own creator. Through all these lives. So, getting back to this, Buddhaya, is being enlightened. So the Dharani, the sutra says, you have to pursue enlightenment. Don't be a sentient being and confused and fill yourself with mental afflictions. Going to the path of enlightenment, going to the path of purification. Nobody else can go for you. You have to walk that path of purification. The Buddha cannot walk for you. If the Buddha can, he would have saved everybody already. You have to do it yourself. Nobody can write the examination for you unless you're cheating, but there's no way to cheat. Nobody else can do that. So, Buddhaya, that's just to remind you, you got to be enlightened. You have to enlighten yourself. Do it yourself. Next, Buddhaya, being enlightened and having enlightened. Maitreya, Narakinti. Maitreya is the merciful one. If you translate it in English, Maitreya means merciful, compassion, kindness. And there is a Maitreya Bodhisattva. Who is Maitreya Bodhisattva? When you walk to this temple, when you go through the gate, you walk into an avenue of small little trees on both sides with stone lanterns, and right at the center, you saw a laughing Buddha. We call it the laughing Buddha. The Buddha of happiness, the big belly Buddha. That's Maitreya Bodhisattva. And it's also called the merciful one. He practiced mercy. He practiced endurances. So the merciful one, Maitreya, is merciful. Not the laughing Buddha. People used to say, that's the laughing Buddha. You got to laugh all the time. Yes, it's the laughing Buddha, but his practice is mercy, is compassion, rendering mercy and compassion to all sentient beings. And we also sometimes refer him to as the public relations manager of the temple, because he's always laughing. Now, if you have a shop If you don't practice smiling and laughing, smiling, you can't operate a good shop. You got to put on a smiling face. So you want to receive all customers into your shop. You got to have a smiling face. Nobody would hit a smiling face. That's a Chinese proverb saying nobody would hit a smiling face. Would you hit a smiling face? No. Narakinti. Narakinti is the blue neck Bodhisattva. Why blue neck? We still don't know. This has been a Sanskrit that's been translated for thousands of years. Blue neck. Maybe Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva in the ancient times appeared as a blue neck Bodhisattva. Blue neck Bodhisattva seems to be a very sacred Bodhisattva. So Narakinti, Narakinti, that word shows in this mantra a few times, at least 3 times. I didn't count, but at least 3 times. Narakinti, that means the blue neck Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva of compassion, Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. Narakinti, Darasinina, Maitreya Narakinti, Darasinina, Payamana Swaha, Darasnina is the courageous one, courage. So the description is, when you practice meditation, when you practice enlightenment, you have to be courageous, like a courageous one. Sometimes you're despair, you're disappointed, you have to build up your courage in practicing it, the courageous one. Vayamana is the great mind, the terrifying mind, the one that has that's respectable and great. Vayamana. Swaha. This word swaha, it's a constantly, a frequently used word in mantra. In almost all mantras, they have this word swaha. It means all accomplished. So if you follow this, you are accomplished in the path of purification. So swaha. Swaha is a frequently mentioned word, a frequently used word in a lot of mantras. Swaha. It also means, swaha also means the effect. If you have this cause, you have this effect. Swaha. So next, Siddhaya Swaha. Siddhaya means achievement, success, establishment. So the mantra, Siddhaya Swaha, achievement, success, and establishment. Maha Siddhaya, Maha means great, the Tashvaha, great. Siddhaya Swaha. So when the mantra is approaching the end, it mentions a lot of Swaha, Swaha. That means all accomplished. If you follow this, you will accomplish all these. Siddhaya Yogisvara Swaha. Siddhaya Yogi, that means establishment and accomplishment. Svaraya, that means the one who is liberated, the one who practiced the yoga and attained liberation. What is yoga? Is it on the TV that people practice all this and exercise yoga? Yoga, that word yoga means in harmony. When everything is in harmony, that is yoga. When your body is in harmony, you have good health. When your body is in harmony, physically, you're in physical good health. When your mind is in harmony, you are in mental good health. Narakinti Swaha. Narakinti is again blue neck. Mara Nara Swaha. Mara Nara is the destroyer. Mara Nara is destroyer. What destroyer? What? Destroy. What did he destroy? Did he destroy another country? Did he wipe out another race? Destroy it? Did he destroy it in a war? Destroy your own mental afflictions. We have mental afflictions that we have to destroy them. What are these mental afflictions that we have? What are these mental afflictions? The common mental afflictions that we have, without going into too much details, of Vijnana Matrata, of consciousness. We have greediness, we have ignorance, we have hatred, violence, you name them. Jealousy, hatred, fear, worry, depression, disappointment, fraudulence, negligence, injuries, arrogance, All these are egoistic. Most of them are egoistic mental attitudes, mental afflictions. Don't try to destroy and wipe out another race so that you can occupy the country. That's what we call wars, international wars. Destroy your own mental afflictions. What happened when you have achieved in trying to or have achieved in successfully destroy your own mental afflictions? You're purified. Your karma is purified. Sira Simha Mukhaya. Sira Simha Mukhaya. Sira Simha is a metaphorical expression. Sira means the head. Simha is lion. Mukhaya means the face. The one with the lion's face and head. And what does that mean? Using the lion as a metaphor. In a forest, the lion is the king. In other words, you have to be in control of your own life. The lion is recognized as the king in the forest. Have you ever seen a lion? Have you ever seen a lion's roar? I have. I experienced one in Toronto when I visited a zoo many years ago, maybe 35 years ago. I was in that was near Buffalo or something. I forgot the place. I went to a zoo with some of my friends, and there are a few lions in there, and we were standing about. Of course, the lions are in a cage. We're standing maybe about a few yards away, and suddenly one of the lion, could be the king among them, the leader among the lions, opened his mouth and roar. Wow, the roaring is thundering. And we were just a few yards away. We were right in the wavelength. It's like breaking your eardrums. It makes your heart thunder. It just breaks your heart, as far as the sound is concerned. And not just the sound that affects me, that make me remember such a roar. The fragrance, the smell, terrible smell. I don't know why. Maybe when it roared, I opened his mouth, and I walk away. I was like a runaway, and after running a few yards, I can still smell. It's really bad. I don't know. You ever experienced it? Right in the wavelength of the mouth, and it's terrible smell. Not just the sound. And I like to share the experiences with people who haven't experienced it before. It's not just the sound that breaks your heart. It's the smell that breaks your nose. And maybe the lion ate too much meat. You realize that vegans, they do not have bad breath. It's people who New York steak, sirloin steak, pork chop, lobsters, crabs. You open your mouth, unless you always use mouthwash. Terrible smell. Vegans, they eat vegetables, they're better. I'm not prejudiced. You tried it out. Maybe we should do a lab test. One side is a vegetarians, and the other side is meat eaters. And start to check the bad breath. You'll know what happened. I can always guarantee you'll get bad breath from eating meat. How do they raise cows these days? Not in the gray, not in the landscaping greens anymore. They put them in burrows. They can't move. They put hormones. They're eating chemicals. You're eating what they're eating, actually. Most of these chickens and cows, they're sick before they were sent to the slaughterhouses. And what do? You're eating the dead bodies of animals every day, and you don't realize it. Dead bodies. Would you want to keep on eating dead bodies? Chickens, you check into slaughterhouse websites. How do they treat chickens in the slaughterhouses? They hang them up in hooks in the assembly line and slice them. And most of these chickens I saw don't want to mention the slaughterhouse name. Most of these chickens are sick because they're not allowed to move when they raise them. They're not running anymore. They're laying eggs every day, and they can't even get a chance to see their own eggs that they lay. They can't move around. And maybe within 1 month, they have to grow from a tiny little chick into a hen, into a fat chicken. Then they can be sold to the market with heavy weight, so that the entrepreneurs can make money. So watch what you're eating. Dead bodies, not worth it. Not worth eating dead bodies every day. Next, Zava Maha Asidaya Swaha. Sava means all, Maha means great, Asidaya means accomplished. To all the great accomplished ones. Who are the accomplished ones? The ones who got enlightened. You don't have to go through the path of reincarnation anymore. No more reincarnation, life and death, beyond life and death. How can we go beyond life and death? Find out more about the Buddha's teaching. The Buddha's teaching is not about getting merits, getting blessings. It's about how to save yourself from rolling into life and death again. Going beyond suffering, no more suffering. For you and for your folks, no more suffering. Chakra Astaya Swaha. Chakra is the wheel. Astaya is the accomplished one. Turn, in other words, other than just enlightening yourself, you got to enlighten others too. What chakra means is the wheel, turning the Dharma wheel. In other words, if you're just talking about saving yourself, that's not enough. That's arahat, that's theravada, that's arahat. Just, I'm safe, I already have enlightened myself to such a point that I'm already beyond life and death. I saved myself. There is a practice like that. But the Buddha said that's not enough. In addition to saving yourself, you have to save all the others. So you have to turn the Dharma wheel. So chakra is turning the wheel. I have read somewhere that one of the major inventions of humanity is the invention of the wheel. Without a wheel, we can't go any further. A wagon needs the 4 wheels. The invention of the wheel is the most important, one of the most important inventions of humanity. It spreads the news, it spreads Dharma. Chakra, Astaya Swaha. Padma, Hastaya Swaha. Padma is the one who hold a lotus flower. As I just mentioned about a few minutes ago, lotus symbolizes purity. People say, okay, how do I get away from life and death? Well, the Buddha's been talking about no more rolling into reincarnations. How do we get away from reincarnations? You have to learn what the Buddha's teaching is all about, but just to give you a very, very brief, extremely brief briefing on how to get away from life and death. Purify your karma, like what the lotus is doing. The lotus is from the mud. We're in a world of suffering, but you're able to stand aloof of the suffering and practice the Buddha's teaching. You purify your karma. How do you purify your karma? Where does karma come from? What is karma? Karma is an accumulation of all your thoughts and all your behavior that accumulates into actions, accumulate into effects that make you suffer. That's the karma. If you always perform bad deeds, For example, you're always killing, you're always lying, you always commit sexual misconduct, you do all kinds of bad deeds. I think people here are adult enough to know what are good deeds and what are bad deeds. I don't have to go through details. If you're always involved with bad deeds, you know, on second thought, we should have gone into detail as what is good and what is bad. Some people have been performing bad deeds his whole life and he didn't know about it. Some people are like that. And even if they know they're performing bad deeds, they carry on because they have been habitually doing that. Like a gambler. If you tell a gambler that he's wrong in gambling all the time, yes, he knows it's not right to gamble. His teacher told him that way, don't gamble. Everybody says gambling is not good, but he still keep on going to the casino every day. Especially the payday. He got his paycheck, the next day you see him in the casino. The third day, he's trying to get a loan from you because he got it all squandered away. There are people like that. I can tell you a story in Hong Kong that happened in the 1950s. In the 1950s, there are what they call compradors in Hong Kong, the British compradors. And the compradors are billionaires because they were trading east and west. And there was a Mr. Cheng, the Cheng family, and a big family, a family with 30 housekeepers, with a zoo inside. You know how big and how rich the family is. And he had a few kids. And one of the children, adults already, 30, 35, he was a gambler. He liked to gamble. And the father said, one day the father said, son, I have already helped you to repay all your gambling loan, and I make a calculation, it's 6.5 million already. In the 1950s, 6.5 million is a lot of money in the 1950s. And if you continue doing that, I'm not going to leave you a penny when I died. And the son said, oh no, Dad, I won't do it again. I won't. I know it's wrong to gamble, and I appreciate you paying off my loans. And in order to show that I'm really repenting, and I'm very remorseful inside. I want to show you my determination that I'm not going to gamble. He took a knife and he chopped one finger off right in front of the dad. I was just blood spurting out, and they called the ambulance and ran him to a hospital, and okay, after just a finger. So he stopped gambling, but only for 2 months. He went back again. And he involved in another loan. The whole family is having a meeting now. We want you out of the family because we can't continue to pay your gambling loan. You're out. It's a big family. They have it's like a family meeting. And the man said, oh, I'm really sorry. He tore his knife again to chop off another finger. This time it's going to be real. I will not do it again. And that being a very affectionate family, they forgive each other and they give him another chance, a last chance. He was given a last chance at the chopping of the second finger. 2 fingers gone. And what happened to him? I want to make this story open. You think about it, what happened. It's a true story. Right, I want to carry on. Narakindi Vagalaya Swaha. Narakindi is the blue neck one. Vagalaya is tiger. It's a metaphorical meaning. It means tiger. Swaha means all accomplished. Mavari Sankaraya Swaha. Mavari is numerous, great number. Sankara is it's also metaphoric. It's a kind of seashells. I don't know how you call it. There's a special name for it. Mavari Sankaraya, that means is numerous, spread numerous, in great number to a lot of places. Namaha Ratnatarayaya. Namaha is to pay higher respect to or taking refuges under. Ratnatarayaya, that means the three jewels. The Buddha, the Sangha, and the Dharma. Ratna, that means three. Trayaya, the three basket. The Buddha, the Sangha, and the Dharma. Namo Arya. Arya, that means saint. The Aryan race, that word comes from Aryan. Aryan means saint, the saintly race. Arya Valokite. Valokite, that means to observe. So the Bodhisattva in front with 1,000 hands and eyes is Avalokitisvara Bodhisattva. To observe is Avalokitis. Avalokite. Svara, that means completely liberated. Svara. Completely liberated. Swaha. So, Namaha Ratnasarayaya. Namo Arya Valokitisvaraya. So, Namo Arya Avalokitisvara, that means to pay the highest respect to Avalokitisvara Bodhisattva. And this mantra is the heart mantra of Avalokitisvara Bodhisattva. People who have been here listening for a long time, you know what it means. Svaraya means liberated, liberation. Liberated from what? Liberated from karma, liberated from mental afflictions. Avalokitesvara means to observe, to watch. It's from two perspectives. If you observe and watch yourself, that means you're contemplating, you're meditating on your own mind. In other words, in the Buddhist teaching, you have to know your own mind. You contemplate on your own mind. You're meditating on your own mind. Where is my mind residing right now? Is it in arrogance? Is it in ignorance? Is it in jealousy? Is it in hatred? Or is it in enlightenment? Where is your mind now? Where is that mind residing in? You got to watch it. You don't allow your mind to go astray. You don't allow your mind to go to sexual misconduct, gambling, jealousy, hatred, arrogance, fraudulence. You watch your own mind. So observing your own mind. When you don't observe it, you're in trouble. Om Sadhyandu, mantra Padaya Swaha. Om Sadhyandu. Sadhyandu, that means accomplished. Mantra Padaya, that means follow the footprint. Walk the path. Walk the path of the sages. Tread the path of enlightenment. And you'll be all accomplished. Swaha. So I finished this mantra. How many? 3 months. So finished it, and next time we talk on something different. But make sure that you don't attach to the words. Every word, the meaning that we explain, the word contains more wider meaning than just the superficial meaning. It means a lot inside. So we don't. So in ancient times, the monks who translated them, they don't attempt to translate the meaning. They just maintain the sound because one word contains a lot of meaning.